Hey, everybody. It is August 9th, 2018, and it's time for Weekly Manga Recap. I'm Chris Rolo T. Larios, and not here with us this week is Nicholas Freeman. He's off saving the world, as he's bound to do. The world needs him more than this manga podcast does. So sometimes we send him on loan to the rest of the world so that he can spread... he doesn't spread happiness at all thinking about it. So I don't know what we're sending him out here to do. I guess to be bitter and angry at things across the planet so everyone can get their fair share. But in his place, we have not one, but two special guests. Nick said we had a guest next week. He was fucking wrong. He's wrong about everything. We have two guests this week. And Annaliese Christman, letterer extraordinaire, core fanatic, drawer extraordinaire, cat lover, all sorts of things. Professional cosplayer,
Ghost Camel,
all the titles, and then Jeff, who I'm surprised we were able to pull you away from whatever gachapon game you've been playing this week. I've been seeing a lot of Grand Blue Fantasy.
Oh, just one? It's like 9. Sorry.
You're playing idle games now too. Is it exclusively? Does all the game need to have is a randomized gacha function in it for you to be like, this is my jam?
And stamina. As long as it stops you from playing, that's the shit. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So that's actually a helpful feature for you. You're like, I have to put this down eventually.
Yeah, it actually is.
I run out of time.
You can spend money to keep playing. That's where it really gets you.
So, not that this is that type of show, but what's the best one, in your opinion?
Oh, the best gacha game. Right now, I'm super into Grand Blue Fantasy.
Can you even get that in the US?
The weird thing is you can't get it you can't get an app on Google Play or iOS in the standard stores, but if you switch to the Japanese iOS store or use like Ku app for Android, you can download it, and then there's just an English patch that has everything. Like everything's translated. It's just not, you just can't get it in the App Store.
Yeah, you can make it. Yeah, you can play it in your browser. Just how
it's all translated. It's just not officially released.
So I could play it in my browser to the side here while we're playing this episode. While we're recording.
Yeah.
Okay.
I totally don't have it running while I work 24/7.
Is that what happens?
It's a live event, right?
If you walk by Jeff's desk, is there a bunch of gacha games going on at once that he's just furiously clicking between?
No comment.
Okay.
But yes.
Have you guys seen the video yet of the guy who spent like $5,700 at like buying Apple gift cards and used, I don't know what, it's whatever game the gacha is like putting love letters in like a school box thing, and it opens up and it shows you if you got, I guess, like the super rare girls. Spends $5,700 doing it, doesn't get a single ultra rare, and then just starts breaking his phone.
Oh, wow.
That's not you, I'm hoping, Jeff? Okay.
No. My biggest vice is the Kingdom Hearts mobile game, which just...
Really?
There's like a weekly jewel pack that is a really good deal that just like is really enticing every week, so I've kind of bought it several weeks in a row.
You've gone hard into it at this point?
Yeah.
I feel... I tried playing it. I could never get into... I just started playing the Shin Megami Tensei one. And then I stopped after like it's fun. I stopped after about a week of it though. It's just I reached that point where the games grind, and I don't do grind. Contrary to what my social profiles all say, I don't do the grind. So
gacha games are only fun as like while watching TV or listening to podcasts or something. Like if I was just playing them and not doing anything else, the most boring games ever.
Yeah.
Well,
or while working.
As Viz is just like, what was that? You're like, nothing.
Yeah.
Letter gets into Mr. Jump's desk, like, what? Yeah, what be Jeff doing with his time on me money? That's a canon in joke for people who listen to this podcast for a while. In our universe, Mr. Jump is the actual pirate head just floating at the desk, and he has a lot of aggressive opinions. Anyways. Guys, let's get to the recap portion of Weekly Manga Recap. And Nick normally has this whole list prepared of where series go. I believe a deep formula went into putting it into place as to get it into a specific order that was the most time sensitive, the most like acute to interest levels, peaks and valleys. A lot of research went into it. Fuck it, I don't have time for that. It's alphabetical again this week, guys. There's no World Trigger, but we will end on We Never Learned, which is kind of like World Trigger. It's basically like little World Trigger without the battling and a lot more romance. Annaliese, I feel like you're giving me a face that says you don't agree with that, but is Yuega not just a little miniature Osamu? With a little
he's
bit more
like
pervy
10%
tendencies?
of the good boy that Osamu is. So he's a very good boy. He's not Osamu.
That's true. Nobody can be Osamu, let's be real. All right.
That's true.
So we're going to kick this off, though, Annaliese, with the series you love and hold near and dear to your heart, Black Clover.
Black Clover!
All right, that's the most enthusiasm this show has ever had towards the Black Clover introduction. And this is Black Clover 168. A fight between those who swore loyalty to the same man. There's a lot of white on black there, and I took off my glasses to tell everyone I was cool, so I had to get closer. Annaliese, I'm going to need your help, because I forget everyone's name in Black Clover. So I need you to help me with that. So this guy here with a cigarette, I don't know if we've ever seen him before.
No, he's a new character, so you can give him a new name.
Okay, he's going to be Squiggle Bottom. And he's very intense. Well, actually, to cut things back, we're turning back the clock just a little bit. Swinging back the pendulum, you could say. And we're going back before everything that has happened in the past, like, 2 months of the series has happened. And we're going back to right after Leash did his reincarnation spell and Julius Nova Chrono, was that his name?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. He was killed by the returning Leash. And we see Yami, who's staring at all the lights, when all of a sudden these light arrows come out and they pierce people. I'm not sure if these are good people or bad ones. I'm guessing they're not evil because they get killed by the reincarnated elves. Are these two characters of importance, though? Person who didn't get a face and other guy?
They're going to be really important later, just like Rebecca. Okay.
Rebecca's never going to be an important character, so let's go back on that. Those two guys get... basically, it looks like they just get straight up eviscerated. They get grabbed up in some watery tendril thing. I don't know if it kills them, but they don't look like they're doing very well. And then we see from outside this bubble of water vines thing, two characters. Annaliese, do you remember their names?
Yeah, so it's not a water bubble thing, it's a jellyfish.
Okay.
And that's Owen's magic. He's the doctor. So he has those kind of like doctor snake staff symbols. And then the other one is Mark's, the one with the USB symbols on his face.
Oh, the Doctor Snake one's actually pretty cool. I didn't notice that. Probably because I forgot that was the doctor. Do we see a doctor before? Have we met this doctor?
we met this doctor twice.
Okay. Did he fix Asta's arm, or was there when Fuego? Okay. All right. I just had to remember.
He tried. He said it's impossible. So everybody was like, "Oh, so the next arc is going to be fixing his arms." Awesome.
There you go.
How long was his arm broken? Like 2 weeks? 3 weeks?
Excuse you? It was like 2.5 weeks.
Halfway through a chapter, obviously it happened. So they show up and they're now elf possessed, which is a big deal because a lot of dangerous people have been elf possessed. And these are two very important people to the Clover Kingdom. It's the doctor of the Clover Kingdom and the secretary of the Clover Kingdom. I don't know what his official position is. Right-hand man of the Clover Kingdom.
Julius's flunky.
Yeah, his Smithers, I guess, if that fits.
Oh, that fits. Sorry, Marks.
So there's a bunch of attacks happening, but it's Yami, or Squigglebutt, whatever his name is, and he's too strong for that, so he's blocking it, but he notes that, oh, wow, these two guys, they have crazy strong magic. If this one hits me, then, I'll be knocked down. If this one hits me, I'll lose all my memory, so... I can't get hit by either of these attacks. I can't, or I'm done for. So, oh no, it's just the doctor's like, I don't know whose corpse that was, because I don't care anymore. My memories are gone. If he's a human, then he deserved to die. And, what's the other guy's name? Max? Marks?
Let's go with Max.
Max? And Max is just like, if that corpse is so precious, why don't I dismember it in front of you? Yami's like, don't you dare make those two say crap like that. And they fire off their attacks, and Yami just sucks them up into a black hole. I feel like it's worth noting that, like, there's a lot of talk in Black Clover about, like, these two have such great skill and power. I need to make sure I'm on top of my A game. It's a very comfortable thing to say when your ability is like, I make black holes that just suck up things. I feel like it takes a little bit away from that tension, but yeah, he's absorbing it and he's bouncing around. He's doing that zippy zag crossover back and forth thing, and he knocks them both out with a blunt strike. They specified it's a blunt strike, so he didn't cut them apart with a sword.
Yeah, he's been reading. I don't want to talk about that series. He used the backside of his sword.
Yes. And he said, Yami says, I swore to protect this country to the man who looked up to you both. And man, he's thinking as they're knocked out, he's like, you guys weren't even combatants, so it's crazy to think that you caused even this much trouble. When suddenly the ground explodes with giant wild red roses. And we look up and see and she's evil now.
Whoa,
it's
a character
Charlotte.
that was before is evil now.
Charlotte's here, and she's evil. She's also been reincarnated with an elf body, and she's like, oh, it seems you were careless. Sleep inside my magic for a while. And Yami has some cool one-liner to give to you, as he calls her the spiny, prickly queen. He says, I don't know who you are, but for a human, you seem quite skilled. And that's the chapter.
I want to call attention to the fact that he mentions she has red roses.
Okay.
When magic as a human is blue roses. So what does that mean?
Are blue roses a real thing?
Yeah, there's blue roses. You grew them in Animal Crossing from time to time.
That makes it completely real.
if I could do it in Animal Crossing, I assume it's real. That's how you pay off your house loan, right? Yeah. Like the raccoon at the pawn store just lets you take for as long as you need to pay it off. The game goes infinitely.
Oh wait, no, it doesn't look like they're actually legit.
Huh.
Wait.
Did Black Clover lie to me?
No, it wouldn't do that.
It's magic. If you had rose magic,
you can make any color rose you'd want.
Well, it does say that in 2004, researchers used genetic modification to create roses.
See, it's natural then, just like Jurassic Park.
There we go. All right.
Yeah. Nothing bad happened with Jurassic Park, so made a lot of money. So obviously, blue roses are here to stay. Jeff, what do you think about this chapter?
It was fun to rewind time to back when we thought that everyone being possessed was a big deal.
Back when we were just like, oh wait, we can just use this sword.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's fun to get focused on Yami, but aside from that, yeah.
Are you?
It's funny how he's USB head, but
are you interested though in the idea of having him go up against Charlotte? There was like kind of like sexual tension between them before, and now it's like, oh, they gotta fight to potentially the death. They might kill each other. You never know.
That's totally gonna happen. That's totally gonna happen. Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, more focus on Yami has potential.
The Annaliese.
That's about it.
Nick on this show in the past couple months has had strong words for this series. Nick's not here to defend himself. You can shout all over him. Call him a big stupid asshole. Do what you want. The floor is yours.
He's got bad taste, and I think we all know that. So not much I have to say. But I like half of this arc a lot, and then half of this arc I think is.
Wait, which half?
Just okay. Well, like there's no real reason for them to fight, for Yami to fight Owen and Mark, so it just seems kind of weird. But like the Charlotte versus Yami stuff, like because they have a past, like that's really cool to me. And she's also combatant, so I think that's really cool. I think a lot of the fights have been fun. I think, and I'm just speaking in the general arc. I think the stuff with Rades and Sally and
Valtos.
Valtos, thank you.
Oh my God, I remember the name of this. You did. Dear diary, today I was good.
But yeah, I think they found the solution to fixing everybody really fast. But But, everything happens really fast all the time in Black Clover. So, they're always going 100 miles per hour.
That is true.
I want to say on this last page, Charlotte has taken her helmet off that she's wearing most of the time. And I want to think it's because her elfin ears don't fit under it.
They get poked up and she's just like, God damn it.
So uncomfortable.
Do you think when she got reincarnated, there was like a soft moment of quiet, and then there was she like tink as her elf ears grew into the helmet, and she's just like, guess I'll have to take this off. So it lifted up like a half inch. I'd look stupid now.
Yeah, she's trying to like balance it on her ears and just keeps like kind of like folding them down. She's like, stupid human.
This is why humans need to burn.
I feel I'm a little nervous about this arc, not because of the content, but this chapter is 13 pages long.
Is it?
Yeah, I mean, a lot happens in it because it's always happening at 100 miles per hour. It's 13 pages long. A regular Jump chapter is 19 pages. And the chapters have been on the short side for a while, so it makes me a little worried. Like, Tabata Sensei, you doing okay, buddy? Please, let's not have a repeat of Ashihara Sensei.
I was gonna say that we did have a couple months ago. We had those couple chapters that had some incomplete art as well. So it is worth, I guess, maybe keeping an eye out for that. I'd like to think Jump's moving to a point where they give their authors more regular breaks. It seems like that's something that like Oda's gotten, and to a certain extent Horikoshi is getting a little bit. So hopefully all good things going for Tabata. And we'll see how this arc goes. I'm not in the same camp Nick is, where I'm like everything in this arc's awful. So I'm on Team Elise here. Although to be fair, I'm always on Team Elise. You got good taste.
Thank you.
And I'm pretty sure I've learned entirely everything I know about Final Fantasy 15 through osmosis of your Twitter feed.
You can tell when I wake up. Yeah, you can tell when I wake up because all of a sudden there's just like a barrage of retweets that are all Final Fantasy.
I'm just like 17 retweets. This is crazy. Also, I don't have my phone nearby, so I used my Switch as a phone right then. That's what we call in the business improv. All right, let's move on then to the next series on our list. Dr. Stone, chapter 69, the sexiest of chapters, Steam Gorilla.
Oh, so steamy.
So last time, our heroes had built their locomotive. And this chapter starts off with their locomotive going, and then Magma shows up. I guess so we can get the opening shot of Magma getting team rocketed into space. As we then introduce that their vehicle is called the Steam Gorilla. And we get our cool chapter title where we get a pretty sweet looking like robot monkey gorilla mech. It's pretty dope. Kind of hope that's in the series at some point. So we're seeing the Senku 2, as they called it. I guess they made a couple improvements on the first one, or what was the first one? It looks like the same one as the first one in this panel, but it says Senku 2.
Yeah.
I go entirely off of One Piece logic. Frankie didn't name his battleships starting at 2. It started with the Battle Frankie 1 and moved on from there. So maybe there's a Senku 1 prototype we missed. But it doesn't do so well on rattling roads because there's no paved roads at this point. So they need to build a better kind of transportation method. And they use that by basically thatching together bamboo wheels. I think that's the right word to use. Thatch. I'm going to assume it is. No one's correcting me yet. So.
Yeah,
sure.
Words. They're fiction.
Yeah. So they built the Steam Gorilla Mark III. And it's like an actual kind of like, it's like a boat. It has a ship steering wheel. Someone took the time to actually put an entire like gorilla with like what I can only assume is like a speed racer style like gadget punching arms to it. I don't know.
Oh, if only.
We're going to have to see at some point. And everyone loves it. Well, I should say all the guys love it because they're going crazy. And Gin says, such is the way of the world. Guys just love mechas.
That's sexist. Ladies love mechas too.
That is true. Jeff, do you love mechas? Is there a mecha gachapon that you play a lot of?
Yes, I just haven't gotten around to playing it. But I'm excited to. There are like 10 different Gundam games in the App Store. It's insane.
It's overwhelming at points.
Yeah. It's like, which one of the 10 should I play is the problem. But They really need to invent gachapon in Dr. Stone. That's the thing they're really missing as a society.
It's like in the back of the machine, Senku's just like, if you put in a quarter, something crazy might come out. And that's when like the village introduces like Schmef, and he's just sitting there at the gachapon all day. They're just like, this guy's powering our economy.
Well, at some point he's going to have to deal with motivation. Everyone's going to be like, oh, we're not motivated by ramen or Coke or whatever. Like, we need some real psychological motivation. We need to be incentivized through gacha.
we need to do psychological manipulation.
That's how he'll convince the Tsukasa Empire. The whole plan with the pretending about America existing, that'll fall through, and then he'll be like, but you can get these rare characters.
Yeah, they're like,
I don't care about rare.
They're just like, wait, I can get rabbit and pudding figurines, SSR pudding. I better spend a couple bucks just to get her. That's all I really want. I'll stop then. After that line, though, we get a small moment with Koseki where he's got like a very like stoic, sad face, and he's like, "We better hurry up. We gotta save Chrome. He's all locked up." And I'm sorry, better go and save the boy. He's all locked up. Poor Chrome. That's not it. I don't know what he says on that. I don't know. They need to go save him. But the other old guy in the village, I don't know if he's ever been named before. He probably was in that giant like page that introduced everyone from this village like a year and a half ago. He comes up and says like, "Good luck on that trip without us." And they're like, What are you talking about? Why aren't you and the kids going? Like, well, we just slow you down. So you could carry more scientific tools and everything like that if you put it all in this truck and then go off on your way. And
I'm glad you don't know who that character is, because I was just like, uh-oh. I don't remember ever seeing this guy before. I have not been paying attention.
We did see him not too long ago. There was a chapter, I think, where the kids were really cold and they built the stove. And I think you saw him. The idea, I guess, is that he's like a caretaker of the kids. I don't remember this. I don't know if they've ever given him a name outside of that giant panel. And there's still that one dude in the village who's never been named. I don't know when he's going to show up at some point. He had like a mask. Look like Volvo from Soul Calibur.
This guy looks too much like Einstein, though.
Maybe that's why. Maybe he's like a descendant of Einstein. Like, you know, there was, I don't know how they get it, but it could happen. Maybe that's the gimmick to all this. He says, yeah, you know, you can't make the long trip because of me. You probably figured that all out, Senku, so don't worry about that. We'll be fine. And everyone else is like, no, wait, if you stay in the village, then, you know, Tsukasa's empire is just going to fucking obliterate you guys. And I'm like, we're not worried about that because you guys are definitely going to beat Tsukasa's empire, aren't you? And Kohaku has a moment where she's like, yeah, count on it. And the rest of the group, carrying the flag of the scientific kingdom, marches on side by side with the Steam Gorilla Mark II.
Which, that isn't how, like, time or causality works. Like, they can still be the village can still be attacked while they're going on this long-term mission. Like,
things are primitive now.
Yeah.
Come on. They don't have planning yet.
You think these guys You think these guys have had access to StarCraft 2 or other RTSs that teach us all like the strategy of combat? No. They have no idea what they're in for. They wouldn't know what to do with a Zerg rush if it hit them. They run into a small problem, though, with the steam engine, which is hills. It's not so great with them. They all have to basically push on them because they don't have one of those, you know, compound cylinders that would be able to kind of rotate on both angles and keep it going. So they're in a bit of a pickle when Senku's like, we'll set up here, as they set up on what I can only describe as Pride Rock from The Lion King, but less impressive. And it must be relatively close to Tsukasa's empire. I believe you can see it. That's the other, like, sort of mountain thing you can see over the hill there. And yeah, they already established that they built that telescope. So Kaku's looking through a telescope to find out where Chrome is, and she spots Sueka, or should I say, Great Detective Sueka, rolling in through the forest, spotting into all these different locations where members of Tsukasa's armies are just kind of hanging about, and they're oblivious to her, until she finally finds Senku in a cage, And not Senku, sorry, Chrome. And Chrome notices her and starts shouting, "Bad news! This jail's boring as heck. It's made of bamboo. It's totally where I am. I'm locked up here." And Sueka presumably has figured out that clue that he let out there and returns, letting them all know what happens. Senku says, well, because Magma, of course, is like, "Let's just go in and punch everybody's heads in." Senku's like, "Well, I don't know about that. But a head-on approach is a pretty good thing, because we're going to go in with our handy-dandy mecha. That's right, our science-powered monster, Steam Gorilla, is about to get upgraded and overhauled into a full-blown tank." And that's the end of the chapter.
Woo!
So, I mean, couldn't they just light an arrow on fire and shoot it at the bamboo?
That's not science enough.
Well, they'd have to get really close to fire an arrow, I think, right?
Well, they can make some sort of like ballista, right? Or is that the right term for the big?
The giant arrow? Yeah, I mean, but I think even that still needs to be closer.
They probably kill a bunch of people.
I'm trying to, in Fire Emblem terms, a ballista could fire, I think, up to 7 squares on a map, which still needs to be within the realm of being able to see your character on the screen. So I think it needs to be a sight thing going off of that. But then hold on, how did Advance Wars tank rules work? Tanks could fire, I think they had to be head-to-head. So I don't know,
tanks
maybe.
are head-to-head, but there were the long-range ones.
Well, those are artillery cannons. That's slightly different. Maybe that's what he's going for. Maybe he's like, an artillery tank's still a tank. Has the word tank in it. So how'd you guys like the chapter? Are you excited for the steam-powered Gorilla tank engine? Fuck you guys. This chapter's awesome. You're assholes.
Dr. Stone's at the point. It does this thing that I really don't like where everything is just like boom, boom, boom. Look at all this stuff we made. And I'm like, you can't make that in seemingly like a day. Like you can't figure out these bamboo tires. You can't weave them all in seemingly a very short amount of time. And for being a science-based series, I feel like too often the series goes, all right, well, here's the problem, and 2 panels later, we're done. And I like to see him struggle because I'm mean. And so it really bothers me when they just figure out a solution to like a big problem in a chapter because I want them to suffer.
Jesus.
But I am very excited to see their tank cannon, whatever they're making.
The Gorilla tank. It's going to be... if this were One Piece, it would be shaped like a giant gorilla, but I'm still hoping it'll be shaped like a giant gorilla.
I'm hoping, they attach it to... Maybe they put it in like they put the gun part in the gorilla's mouth on their car, and I don't know. That'd be cool.
Has Donkey Kong ever had like a robot nemesis?
Ooh.
Have they ever had to fight like robot Donkey Kong and anything?
I can't remember. I'm looking this up. Robot.
I'm trying to recall Donkey Kong 64, and
I don't recall one in that.
This
is good audio for everybody. Like, wait, are they looking up to see if there's a robot Donkey Kong apropos of one random tangent? I'm like, yeah, was there?
I see pictures, but I don't think anything's like all that legit.
Is it doujinshi? Is it?
Unfortunately, no.
I want that Robo Donkey Kong smut.
Oh, he's gonna lubricate real well for you.
Oh, that was too vivid.
Gives a
crossed the line.
Gives a new meaning to the golden banana.
Oh, here we go. Killer Robot Unicorn Space Kong.
What?
Killer Robot Unicorn Space Kong.
Hold on. Killer Robot Unicorn.
Unicorn Space Kong.
Space Kong. Well, I'm getting pictures from Robot Unicorn Attack.
Yeah, if you go into images, it should be the first one. I don't know how legit this is.
DK Vine. DK Kong Barrel Blast. It sounds legit. I assume DK Vine is like the DK Wikia. Hold on, is there a Donkey Kong Wikia? Please tell me there is. This is the stuff Nick normally stops if he was here. There is. Thank God. All right. Well, these are 2 questions I'll answer on another day. But I like this chapter of Dr. Stone. I think it was fun. Not anything too crazy to it. But I don't know why. It hit me very hard in that moment where Kaseki was... When it was seemingly everyone else just being like, boys sure like their mechs. And he's just like, I hope Chrome's okay. I'm like, oh God, give him his peanuts. Didn't he get peanuts for being second place in that popularity poll?
Yeah, this chapter was, I don't know, kind of looking back on it now, because I read it a couple days ago. Looking back on it now, it's like, it's fine. I think the stuff at the beginning I really liked, the humor with Gen being the only one who could drive because he had a driver's license, and for some stupid reason that mattering. But I think I don't know, Dr. Stone was an interesting series because it's like a mix of interesting kind of, like not highbrow, but like novel scientific explanations with plotting that's really exciting, but also kind of lots of times really dumb. Like a lot of times it's like this explanation is like totally rushed and like you can find contradictions to it, but it doesn't really matter because it's all just fun. And I feel like this chapter had some of those flaws, like why did they was it so important last chapter or 2 chapters ago, whatever, that the whole village comes, and then suddenly, oh, now it's not important anymore. It's like the logic that made it so important before was really thin. Then the logic that it's not important anymore is also super thin, but it's like it doesn't ultimately really matter because you're just in it for the fun journey. But when it's put up against the like otherwise trying to be really smart science stuff, it's kind of strange.
I guess the one advantage to them not bringing the entire town or village along is that we know, I guess, the characters that are going to be involved in this then. So they can't just bring someone out and be like, this is another person in town. We haven't really brought them up before, but he's super good at like climbing mountains or something like that. And that's the one thing we needed. So I guess there's that advantage, but we shall see. I think it's fun. And
this way they can still take hostages, but they're not helpless hostages. So I like that.
I mean, I guess all it took to put what's her name down was just to tie her up slightly. So I guess that's all they theoretically need to do. I don't know if they have like a prison established in Ishigami Village. Let's move on to Eden Zero, Chapter 7. Now, this isn't a jump series. Have you guys partaken at all of Eden Zero?
I just read it today.
Okay.
Yeah, in the past 24 hours, I caught up to... It's a long series, a lot of chapters. I don't know.
There's a lot to get there. There's not a gachapon of it yet either, so I don't know if this has been able to keep you interested too long. There haven't been too many characters to put into it. So last week, Shiki opened up the case that Weiss had, and inside was a little robot girl. I don't think she gave her name last week, but she starts off by this week explaining that her name is E.M. Pino. Call her Pino for short. And she's a little tiny robot. She is called an anti-bot android because specifically her power is to create EMPs as it knocks out the light. And Rebecca helpfully reminds us that EMP stands for electromagnetic pulse, and that temporarily shuts down robotics. And that's why Shiki's ether gear stopped working, and we look over and Happy has stopped working because he's a robot cat, and all the lights went off and everything else like that. So... lights come back on. It only lasts a moment, as Pino explains. Happy doesn't seem like it's more treated as a joke that he just died, I guess, technically, for a couple moments there. Like, his consciousness stopped to, like, cease to exist.
I was kind of worried, like, is your memory system okay? Will you be able to boot on your own? Like, oh, this is not good. Oh, no, it's fine.
Yeah. This is the friendly kind of EMP. It just temporarily inconveniences you. Chiki goes to Pino. He's like, wow, that's an awesome power. Will you be my friend? And Pino's like, friend? Request approved. And Shiki finally has made a friend. Weiss is like, what's going on here? I thought this suitcase was supposed to be full of fucking money. What's the deal with all of this? And he, grabs Pino and he's just like, maybe this thing's supposed to be worth something. She explains that she is the property created and owned by my master, ergo she has no suggested retail price. And Weiss mentions, what, your master? You mean Sabir? And she goes into like a memory recall mode of like, Sabir, beep, damaged, restored memory returning, Sabir master, Sabir's order, absolute. And she starts running because she's like, I'm supposed to be there. He gets really angry if I'm gone. Starts running away. She actually cries. They programmed this robot to cry and gave it actual tears, which is horrifying in my mind. But I don't know. Have you guys played Detroit Become Human at all?
I've watched most of the game.
Is that what it is? Is it all about robots crying? Because that's what I grasp from. Again, I also have learned most of what I know from Detroit Become Human off of your retweets.
It's sure. It is about android emotions, I guess.
Okay. Do they cry though? Can robots cry in that?
I don't know.
Hold on, let's go to the Detroit Become Human wiki.
Can robots cry in Nier Automata? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
But they have every other like function of humans. Like, I thought.
Sorry, this just reminded me of some. Have you guys played Halo at all?
No.
A little bit.
Okay, so do you know who the character Master Chief is though? And he has like the Spartan armor. I found out recently from friends of mine that in book extra book material expanded universe stuff, that the Spartan armors that they have actually includes functions to sexually relieve the soldiers inside of them to make them more confident in battle.
It's a fuck suit.
And I can't think of anything funnier than that.
You just simulated my tears. Oh. Oh.
I want everyone to know that.
Do they have to flip a switch or something?
I think it's automatic because I think they're not supposed to it's just supposed to be like, no, this is natural. You need to be relieved of this sexual tension or whatever.
Man, boner sensor.
Yeah. like Cortana just comes on. She's just like activating flashlight. So Weiss is thinking, he's like, oh, so does this mean Sabir wants to use this EMP to make a fortune? Ah, well, this is my chance to take it all for myself. And Rebecca and Happy are like, you're a scum. And he goes running out, laughing about how Luck's on his side. And Rebecca has a moment where she thinks back to the Weiss that she remembers. And that Weiss said that no matter how poor you get, you must never ever steal because God is always watching. It's kind of interesting. I thought that would be a more serious moment for her to kind of really sit there and relish the difference between the person she knew and the person she's met now. But it's kind of treated as a joke because she just has a blank expression. She's like, ha ha, afterwards. And I was like, all right. I feel like you could have done more with that, but fair enough. Then the bunny lady from last week starts talking. She might be an important character, guys. Keep a track on her. She shows up and is like, heard you guys talking about Sabir. Wouldn't say that name out loud that often because you know he's the mobster that runs over this town, and if they set their sights on you, you'll never get out alive. And they note that Weiss was part of Sabir's gang, but he quit recently, and not anything really more than that. So they leave the bar, and Shiki grabbed onto a B cube. He's like, oh hey, I found one of these in the case with Pino. It looks like those square thingies you guys have. And she's like, oh, you shouldn't grab that. We can't meddle with anything. And, and she grabs onto it, activating it. We see it's a video recording of Sabir telling someone to dance. And we see that it's Pino. And we get a whole long extended thing of Sabir basically being like, dance for my amusement. You can't dance and I shall break your leg. It's a real Disney villain level shit where you're just like, good Lord. The robot's just crying like, please don't damage my legs. And he's like, haha, who's your master? And it's very sad and tragic. There's more tears. Again, I don't know why you'd program a robot to cry. It's awful. It says, I'm going to erase your memories of your previous master. And she's like, please no. Those memories mean so much to me. Let me keep them. And he says, nope, I'm going to delete them. And he commands his men to take Pino away to erase her memories. And even tells them to not fix her leg either, to just give her a spare nail as her new leg. And we cut back to it, and she's lost her memories, and she's looking at her little screw leg, and she's like, wow, this sucks. I want to go home to my master. And Shiki's like, well, I'm going to take you there, because you're my one friend that I have right now. On my long list for 100 friends, I guess no, she's number 3 on the list, because there's Happy and Rebecca. They also
I wish there were a counter running.
Oh, like a little counter. Ding.
At the end of every chapter, friends 3.
They also note that there was a log of that last data management, and they notice that, hey, X92 or 492, that's our time. So somehow, they don't know how, but Sabir has an android from their time. So they have to look into this, and they can't just let him keep doing these sorts of cruel things, even if it may fuck with time. Then we cut over to Weiss, who is sneaking back into the hideout, and we see that Sabir's men are getting ready now that they have Pino back in their control. And Weiss says, "Those are the Foot Brothers, the Southern Annihilators. Damn, Sabir, I didn't realize you had such lethal pawns." That's a chapter.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I hoped for that Sibylla, whatever, would be more interesting. Like, he seems so one note in this chapter. I'm kind of disappointed. Also, something I only noticed now because I kind of read this chapter is that the tattoo on his forehead or on his head says Shibiru in Japanese. So he just has his own name tattooed across his head.
Sometimes he forgets.
Looks in the mirror.
Needs to look in the mirror. Oh, okay. Yeah. Except then it'd be backwards. It doesn't even help you.
Well, maybe it's so he doesn't have to introduce himself.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's a name tag. Yeah.
Oh, like he headbutts somebody, and then they look in the mirror tomorrow, and they're like, "What?" Oh, and then it's like reflection. So it's like Sabir did this to me. Oh man, he's a jerk.
Yeah, because he headbutts so hard you forget.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're like, why do I have a concussion? Oh, Sabir. Gotcha.
All makes sense. It's just logic.
Yeah, he's really mustache twirly.
He is. That feels like Hiro's kind of style of villain. Like outside of like, I'm trying to think of who even from Fairy Tail was. I guess, what's his name? The guy from the end. The dude who killed everything around him. Zareth? Is that his name?
Maybe.
Yeah. I think Zareth. Zareth was the only one who had anything really that kind of approached like a complex sort of personality. Almost any other time, it's the main villain of like a group. They're just unabashedly evil and usually pretty quick to get their crap pushed in, so to speak. So.
Yeah, and this is my first real exposure to Hiro Mashima. I didn't really read Fairy Tail at all. I kept meaning to get around to it someday, but then it ended, so I took that off my list.
You've been reading Black Clover, haven't you? You've basically been reading Fairy Tail then. Just a little less fan service.
A better version. A good version.
I heard
described today. I heard described today that Fairy Tail is the Black Clover of One Piece.
I don't fully understand that.
I mean,
I don't understand it either, but I think it's true.
Sure, I'll agree with that.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think the series so far is interesting, but I feel like it still hasn't like reached the real premise. It's like, is it about time travel? Is it about robots? Is it just about friend gathering? Is that really what it is all about? And I think it's kind of weird to see shonen series like this where he doesn't really have to be upfront with the premise, because it's like, well, I mean, it's from the fairy tale author. It's gonna get greenlit for a certain amount of time. And so it can kind of take its time to really set up the premise. But I don't know how much Fairy Tail was like that in the beginning too. I don't know.
Fairy Tail was pretty quick, I think, to get to the guild. It took a while before it actually like introduced the full principal cast and started doing some stuff. It's just sort of weird because normally I'd say like, nah, the series is going for what it is, but it's the fact that there's still like these characters who show up who are just like, time doesn't matter right now, and I'm going to be important later, but just hold on. I'm just like, I feel like we're still actually waiting for all the pieces to get in to be like, oh, that's what this series is. Like, is it going to be always, like, is it going to be like Doctor Strange, where like, really your perception of reality should be different for this sort of series? Because we're going to be changing with the laws of reality all the time.
Yeah, I almost fear that that's going to be an excuse later. Like, well, this sort of story isn't working, but that's what we meant to do.
I'm most worried because Hiro has a habit of being like, I've killed this character, feel sad, and then going back on it. And I feel if you give him the ability to control time, it's just they're gonna be constantly like, let's just rewind and they're fine now. Like everyone hugs. I'm like, God damn it, you can't keep doing this.
Ugh.
I'm really excited for the pirate lady.
Urshma, or whatever her name is.
Yeah.
Irma.
Oh, God. Like, when I saw the promo art for this series, I was like, I must be saying this wrong. Look at all these characters I know. And then when I was reading it today, I was just like, well, it's your series. I mean, you're a famous creator, but
he's
the cat's name really Happy? Like, we already had a cat named Happy that looked exactly the same.
What's interesting, because he did the same thing of Fairy Tale, where you're like, Plu was in the last series, but then Plu disappeared. They've really established Happy is going to be the exact same kind of role, so it's like, you really like up the ante on like, yeah. He's a cat now. Cat guns, so.
Yeah, cat guns. I did like the cat guns. I was like, I don't understand why you can turn into guns, but I can dig it.
I can dig it. All right.
I think Pino's pretty cute, too. And I know this sounds terrible, but her little screw leg, it's like a little pig leg. It's kind of cute.
You're like, I'm glad she got that peg leg. And she's sitting there crying, like, I miss my leg and my memories. You're like, but you're cuter now. Be sad. This is the only way.
The tears make your eyes bigger and cuter.
All right, we're really discovering Annaliese's monster this week. Let's move on to Food Wars, Chapter 274, Teacher versus First Seat. So I'm going to be skipping a lot of this chapter because it's one of the cooking chapters in Food Wars, which means just to say, like, they do food stuff for a while. And if you're a chef, maybe you have a lot more of an opinion on it than I do. But for me, I'm like, that looks like good food, and they didn't put ranch on it, so they wouldn't have done what I did, but it still works out. It opens up with Dojima thinking like, Sashi Saiba will definitely come to Totsuki Institute soon, and he's looking for Yukihira so he can defeat him one-on-one. And we cut over to where Suzuki is about to be challenged by Soma, but before so, Soma says, hey, you're not just a teacher, are you? You know, I just got this gut feeling. And Suzuki says, that's a good question. But everyone has secrets they don't want others to know, right? It's part of being human. So Soma puts out there like, all right, well, what about if I win, then you tell me the secret about this? And Suzuki says, I know. But if I win, you give me your chef's knife. And I'm trying to remember, it's been a really long time. Is Soma's knife particularly important to him? I know that it was a big thing when Mimisaka took the Aldini brothers, like, crescent moon thing, and that he had that habit, and then Soma did, like, the big reveal to beat him later on for it, but I can't remember if, like, taking Soma's knife was that big of a deal.
I don't know if his is a big deal, but I have heard it said in other series that a chef's knife, like their main knife, is kind of like the soul of the chef.
Okay.
So I
assume it's supposed to have a lot of significance.
But I don't know if his particular knife is super special awesome.
It'd be like if someone said, like, oh, but if you lose in this Pokemon battle, Ash, you give me your hat. And I'm like, no, that's his Pokemon League Championship hat that he ordered online as a child.
He sent like 50 postcards for that thing.
Primeape, you give that back. Oh, he did. Primeape, you're going to be part of this team for a long time. I can feel it.
He literally gets this first battle where he's used. He gets given away. Like, I recently rewatched those episodes, and I'm like, what? He's literally there for no episodes.
It's maybe the most infuriating part of my childhood. Like the one thing I'm like, why would you give him away so quickly? You finally got a dope Pokemon. You threw him away. You still kept fucking Pidgeotto forever until it evolves finally, and then you're like, get rid of this. I have trust issues because of Ash.
Ash is just a bad trainer.
He also Butterfree, like, he lets Butterfree go, like, 2 or 3 episodes after being like, Butterfree, I would never trade away Butterfree. Like, no, I must keep Butterfree forever.
Yeah, like, that's, how could I? Just so I could have a sweet-ass Raticate.
Yeah.
So we actually get a Shokugeki started here. Erina is still just knocked unconscious by all of this. This is like, gone from did she faint to has she had an outright concussion and nobody's like diagnosed it yet, because she's still passed out for this like entire chapter. But we get a bunch of different things here. Soma's deep frying some meat. He goes in with his deep fried pork cutlet with a fondue lunch set, and there's a whole big thing. But the sauce is black. It's supposed to be cheese, right? Why is it black? but it's black cheese sauce. I don't know. They make black cheese sauce somehow. I don't know. I don't even like blue cheese, so I'm not the person to go through for cheese of weird colors. Pepper Jack's the best cheese anyway, so.
Yeah, weird colored cheeses are wrong. They're just morally wrong.
Yeah.
Exactly. Back to the Aryan cheese that we started nostalgia on.
Oh boy.
But they know, like, oh wow, the flavors of the cheese together. It's giving this elegant taste, but a rich aftertaste. It's incredible. But the trick is how he deep fried the cutlet. And Suzuki comes in and starts explaining the whole process to all this. That he used this secret ingredient, black garlic, that he added to the fondue and all this sort of stuff. And Megumi says he's right. With each bite, I just want to eat more and more. Just as with this pork cutlet dipped into cheese sauce, the flavor is seeping into my body, staining me deeper and deeper. It's like so totally out there. It's off the deep fried end. You feel me? And she's doing a little pose as she's become, what do they call them? Genki girls?
Ganguro, I think.
Ganguro? What's Genki? Hold on.
Genki just means like upbeat, hyper, like Mimi from Digimon.
Okay. So what is it? Ganguro?
Ganguro.
Okay. So she's a Ganguro. If you don't know anything about Japanese culture, this page must be really, really confusing then if you don't know like this archetype exists. They're just like, why did Megumi get so upfront and mean? And her hair turned blonde or white or something. So Megumi is very excited. She's basically passed out in excitement. And I guess no one's tending to fucking Erina at this point. She's just on the ground. Like they don't notice the pool of blood that's puddled beneath her head. When Suzuki says, like, hey, it's all right. See, my dish is finishing frying too. And he's like, oh, can't you hear that? It's just about done. So he can cook without even needing to use an egg timer. And he comes out. He says, go on, dig in. And they're like, oh my gosh, it's the same dish as Soma's, except his sauce is white.
Because he only uses the Aryan cheeses.
That's how he does it.
I did not mean to go down that rabbit hole. Oh, I just meant blue cheese tastes bad.
Blue cheese is disgusting. Let's
yeah.
Can we make a consensus on here? Pepper Jack is the best cheese. It's the king of cheeses.
I'm not just a spicy thing.
Yeah,
I like Monterey Jack, so can I get on the bottom level there? I don't like the pepper, but I like the Jack.
I'll take it.
Yeah,
Jack's fine.
Okay.
Jeff, do you stand where best cheese, Jeff? Top 10 cheese, top 10 anime cheeses.
Oh, I love the first like 5 episodes of Munster. The later arc of medium cheddar is pretty great. The first OP of sharp cheddar is pretty good, but I don't know, the soundtrack's a little iffy.
Yeah, I didn't care for Freckles as the main theme. That was kind of cheesy. How'd you guys like this chapter? Did you love it? Were you right there turning Gonguro over that black cheese sauce?
I'm still kind of confused about that sauce, but like all cooking chapters, I just want to freaking eat it. This series is constantly cruel because I can't eat any of this stuff.
Well, you can. You just have to actually get it.
Yeah, I have to put in effort and stuff.
Yeah.
But
you know what would make a lot of money? A Grubhub service that exclusively sold Shokugeki no Soma related foods. That's all they sold. So people could read this chapter and be like, this looks so good. And they get on their phone, again, my Switch phone, and they're just like, I want one of them pork cutlets with the black sauce. And then they come and deliver it to your house. But exorbitant free. It's crazy expensive because they only serve like 20 foods, but
it's like, oh, I want the bear from that one chapter. Like, all right, let's go into the woods.
Yeah.
Get the bear.
They say they asked for it. Goes out with a giant club. Comes back with a bear.
I mean, the chapter it's okay, I guess. You know.
Not a lot of enthusiasm.
I'm I'm not current on Food Wars, so I mainly was reading this and was like, okay, I mean, this guy seems cool. I don't know who he is. This guy that Soma's competing with.
He's potentially his brother.
Oh, that... Okay.
Have you not heard this? That his brother is a real thing until they confirmed last week. It's not actually his brother. It's like an apprentice that Jorichiro treated like a son sort of deal. Nick's in the camp that this guy is not Soma's brother and it's somebody else that Jorichiro sent to like train Soma up or something like that. He thinks there's a double turn going on here. Annaliese, where do you stand?
I like that. I mean, I thought the obvious that it was the brother, not brother. But I like the double turn, and because the dude's totally gonna win, you know.
Mm-hmm. He's gonna take a chef's knife.
He's gonna take his chef's knife, but then if it is a double turn, he'll train him. He'll be like, "You don't even need this to be strong."
No, you know
what's like that,
you know what's gonna happen? He's gonna take the chef's knife. And then Soma's going to realize it's like that scene at the end of Kingdom Hearts 1. So he'll take the knife and then Soma will just pull out the same knife and be like, oh, it manifested to me because I'm the true chef's knife wielder.
Chef. He just like pulls it out of his chest or something.
When you
a shaft of light comes out of his chest. He's like, whoa!
I know now without a doubt, Shokugeki is light.
When you said that scene from the end of Kingdom Hearts, I was like, so after Soma has just defeated Suzuki as a giant ship monster, he reaches out.
No, he's like a giant bento box monster.
Yeah. You know what? On that tangent of the end of Kingdom Hearts 1, I don't think I've ever been more grateful when playing a video game when you fight through like 3 different forms alone. And then you're like in the middle of like a mid-scene fighting like a bunch of random Nobody or Heartless in like darkness. And then you just hear Goofy well, I'm here, Sora. And he shows up. I'm like, oh, thank God Goofy's here. Oh, thank you, God, Goofy. I was so happy he was there. All right. Now that we've finished up with Food Wars, let's talk about a new jump. Well, it's actually not a jump start. It's a one-shot, a special one-shot from Amano, I believe is the name. I'm scrolling to the page right now.
Yeah, Kira Amano.
Amano, who most people probably know from Katekyo Hitman Reborn, although some people might know her from her more recent series, Eldalive. I don't remember how exactly to pronounce it.
Yeah.
And it's a special one-shot bonus chapter that we're getting called Hot, an ice hockey manga. It's good. No, I'll actually recap it. I know Nick's bummed because he's not here the first time we actually get an ice hockey manga to talk about. So it starts off as we meet our protagonist, On. And his name is very significant because we find out that his family, the Himino family, for generations has been doomed to, quote, not make nice with ice. There's a lot of very interesting wordplay used throughout this opening chapter. And from that implication, you'd be like, oh, they're just cursed with ice. No, as they explain later on, ice has murdered like 6 different members of their family throughout the ages.
But it's like murder them through like eating shaved ice and choking. Like,
yeah.
It's all stupid things.
So, On was named that so he'd have a name that would trump ice. He would be the man who would win over ice using its most combative sport, ice hockey, which is a hilarious reason for why this guy is supposed to be good at ice hockey. Is his family believed they were cursed to be killed by ice forever, so they had to master ice, and they were like, you must master ice hockey to survive. And he lives...
I really appreciate that in contrast to Robo, coming off of Robo, where it's like, oh, he actually is good at golf. Oh no, maybe was he trained to be good at golf? I don't know, maybe. Like, it's kept as a mystery for like 50 chapters. So for this to be like from the beginning, no, he is trained to beat ice.
Yeah.
It's refreshing.
Because otherwise it would curse him. It would take him at a young age or something. But On doesn't really like ice hockey at all. He's not interested in it. Just hearing about it pisses him off, and he won't ever play that sport. And he tells that to his grandfather, and his grandfather like bursts out of his shirt and is just like, "You have time to say such nonsense. You focus on your religious training." And while this is happening, 2 people are walking by. We find out their names later, Takahashi and Ueda, I believe is her name. I know his name's Takahashi because they make a joke about how his name is like Takalatshi. And they don't give you any memory cue for Ueda, which I needed. So I was hoping they'd say something like, oh yeah, she's really good at goodbyes. So everyone calls her see you Ueda or something like that. But they don't, unfortunately. So they're walking by talking about how the ice rink that they use is raising their fee. And that's not cool. And they're going to give a discount to the Kurosami Ice Hockey Club. And they're very angry. So I'm not sure how this happens. I think he just stubs his foot on a rock, but I guess it's a rock that's solid enough that it doesn't move when he kicks his foot into it. Like, I guess this row just had one large rock that's just leveled out of the ground and is stuck there, and no one's ever gotten rid of it until this dude kicks it out of the ground later on. I'm not sure exactly how this happens, but he kicks the rock. It goes flying. It looks like it's about to hit On until On turns and with the broom bats it up in the air, kind of does a couple moves, and then knocks it away. And the rock shatters into the nearby window of their dojo. I don't know what you'd call it. Their building.
Their building.
Yeah.
It's a temple. Yeah.
And On turns to him, he's like, you owe us money for that. But Takahashi doesn't care. He's really excited because he just ran into somebody with that kind of skill with the broom. They'd be really good if they played ice hockey. He says, if we switched out your broom for a stick, you could really enjoy playing hockey. And he's really excited. On, however, is not so happy. In response, he says, first, I don't know how he does this either. He's eating a biscuit, and like 7 centimeters into the biscuit he has in his mouth, he creates like a separate break that falls out of his mouth because he still has the rest of it in his teeth. So that falls out of his mouth, and he thwacks that into Takahashi's mouth and starts choking him with the biscuit. And he says, why'd you do that? He's like, to shut him up. And he didn't apologize for kicking a rock at me, and he called me a squirt. Plus, people who preach to me about ice hockey really piss me off. So we got a little Sasuke in this kid. I like it.
He's gonna murder the ice village.
Yeah, well, his main enemy is ice, so yeah, he's destined to kill all ice. That's why he does hockey, so he can put blades on his feet and murder the ice beneath him as he skates around. This is logic. Takahashi wants to keep getting him into this club. The club manager, Ueda, is just like, don't worry about this guy. You know, he just says a whole lot. He doesn't mean any harm. They call him Takalatsi. I guess that's people's affectionate nickname for him. And after this, the grandpa comes out because he's like, I heard grass break. What happened? What did you do? And he's basically stomping around in a flaming rampage looking for who caused the damage to his house. And everyone else is hidden beneath the building. Takahashi keeps trying to get On to play hockey with them. And he shoves another biscuit in his mouth and is like, you guys just go, head out of here, or maybe I should let my grandpa kill you. And the other two of them, they run away. So, as they're leaving, On says to himself, like, so that's Haruhi's ice hockey team. Not on my life. We cut to that evening, and Ueda is coming back, and she looks inside the building. She sees On doing something. We can't see from here. We just see a bunch of movement going around. And then she waits outside for him to be finished. And she says, great work on all your cleaning. And here's some money to pay for that broken glass. And he's just like, why are you here? Takalatsi is the one who did that. I'm kind of glad this is just a one shot, because I feel like if this guy was just called Takalatsi for the entirety of the series by this character, it would run its course real quick. And she doesn't have time to explain before he mentions, like, your captain really rubs me the wrong way, and I don't need your money. Get out of here. And slams the door on her face. Next day, we're at Kurosami skating rink, and On has showed up, but he gets turned away by the person at the desk saying, these early morning hours are reserved for clubs and teams. On's pretty pumped. He's like, sweet, I don't have to do any ice hockey training today. But he goes inside because he hears a bit of a kerfuffle going on. Actually, no. This is important. He goes inside and he says, I think I'll kill some time here and eat some bread. 1, bread is empty calories. Don't waste your time with that. 2, killing time in an ice hockey rink is the bread of spending your time. That's also empty calories. Don't do that either. This man is full of bad ideas. Don't follow him, kids. On to the point. He sees Takahashi there, and he's getting in a big fight with a bunch of guys in some sweet black coats. The one dude behind him, I think, is a zombie that was reanimated. Like, he has, like, the sunken in face and, like, the nose that goes up. Like, I really think they just reanimated a corpse and make him play ice hockey, which is awesome. Don't get me wrong. I hope that's the actual story behind this character. I'd read the shit out of that, but... they note that, hey, these guys, they're from the Kurosame club. They're one of the top 8 teams. So they're not basically allowing anyone else. Even though Takahashi and his club reserve the rink first, the club basically is choosing to go with people who could pay more. And there's more money in it to let Kurosame use the club because they'll bring in publicity and they'll bring in people and all sorts of things. And as On is just watching, he's like, man, this idiot gets carried away too easily. And Ueda goes back on him. She claps back, as the kids call it today. Yeah. She says, it's not true. You're misunderstanding. Jeff rolled his eyes. Am I not using that term correctly? Am I not up to date? Am I not on the pulse of what kids say today? She says, no, the only reason our club exists is thanks to the captain, because he made a direct appeal to the principal to get the club established in the first place. They have no budget whatsoever, so all the club equipment and everything, the fees they use for the rink and training, it all is covered by the captain that he does with his part-time jobs. That's why he didn't come last night, but that was his money, so even then, it was still him giving so much of himself so that everybody else can enjoy this ice hockey. And, he's never complained once and all the mistakes that his teammates make, because that's fine. They're all beginners. It's okay. And this is someone who always speaks his mind, actually holding his tongue for once. So it seems like he's holding back a little bit here. The coach of the Kurosame team's just like, oh, you're eating up our time here. Get out of here. What can we do to make you understand? He's like, how about we do a match? And the loser never gets to use this rink again. And it's going to be a 3-on-3 match. Takahashi knows he's not going to win, so he's like, I'm going home. But then On shows up and says, let's do this, Takalatsi. If you throw in the towel, you lose your one saving grace. And they're going to have a 3-on-3 match. And On's kind of an asshole. He kind of comes in, he's just like, I sent in my membership because I had to the Haru High School, but I was going to cancel the next day. So I'm really only like half of a member. And like, the coach is like, oh, I guess this guy's only half qualified, isn't he? But it's fine. So then On's like, well, then you can send in any big lugs you need to and send any guys at me because I'll crush all of them. And we actually get a match. Something that amuses me, though, is they're staying in the ring and we're introduced to the fact that judging will be handled by the ring staff and commentary will be provided by Kurosame High Broadcast Club. They came here for a training. Do they have broadcasters commentate over their training matches? I'm very curious by that. They get into some hockey here, and I won't bore everybody with the details. This is a very exciting little match, but it's always difficult to just describe just action. So we see some action go across. There's a shot made on the goalie initially. They're blocked, but then it's another shot again. And Takahashi basically throws himself into it. And we see that that's kind of what Takahashi has. He's not the most skilled player necessarily, but he's got a ton of energy and effort. And that's definitely good for him to have. But then otherwise, it's On, who's just fucking a monster. He's obliterating everybody. He's getting around people. He's knocking the puck away from them. He's bouncing it across the air. He's like one of those like a soccer player who's just kicking the ball in the air to keep it around a teammate or something like that. It's very strange. And we cut over to Ueda, who's thinking about how, oh, that's what I saw last night. Whatever he has to do cleaning, he does it all with a broom. Wiping the floors, cleaning up the thing, raising pots and stuff. And we get a flashback to On throughout his childhood. When he was 0 years old, his grandfather was like, here are your brothers, a stick and a puck. And then when he's 4, he's like, don't let those eggs fall or a ferocious dragon will eat you who loves her babies. And basically when he gets to be like 10, he starts to question it a little bit as he's balancing on a medicine ball, keeping pucks in the air. And his grandfather's still like, I don't know, it's just what you're destined to do. And that's when we get the whole explanation that 4 different members of their family have died from ice throughout their life, including one guy who was just impaled by a stalactite of ice falling from the ceiling at some point.
Yeah, like some of these, like, oh, heart failure, oh, that's a bummer. Oh, food poisoning, oh, that's a bummer. Frostbite, oh no, impalement, oh god, oh.
Like, that's horrifying.
Yeah, like, dying no matter what sucks, but impalement, like, oh, that's maybe you are cursed.
So that's why he was trained, I guess, for his entire life to do this, because so they can prevent, hopefully, stalactites from falling and crushing the rest of their family.
Wait. Does the impaled dude? Oh, is he a caveman? It looks like he's got an afro, though.
He could be Afro Caveman.
Yeah, it does look like he has, like, like the kind of cloth over one shoulder thing.
It makes sense, because the dude who dies from frostbite looks like he's got that, like, old kind of like Edo era Japan haircut sort of thing.
Yeah, it's less depressing if he died through impalement as a caveman.
Or maybe he was just a dude with an afro going his way to, like, a cosplay, like, party or something like that.
That is the most tragic.
On is about to kind of get forward when suddenly the guys from Kurosami are just like, let's just beat the shit out of him. We're so much bigger. So they get physical with him. Yeah, there's combat to it. Although you shouldn't be able to check somebody with their elbow strike like that, which is a big point. So even though On kept the puck, he tries passing it off, and the ref calls offsides on Takahashi. And that's when they realize that the ref is in the pocket as well, which actually doesn't come up as much as you'd think. It's sort of like established there and then really not brought up again. But anyway, the coach notes like, hey, just keep away from him, because this guy may be good with wielding a stick, but he sucks at skating. And that's when they're like, oh no, we found out this guy's weakness. And maybe that'd be a really interesting way of painting it. This guy was trained to be a great ice hockey player, but his hatred of skating has kind of led to him to be great at ice hockey, except for the skating part. It's not true. In fact, it's because the guy told him he was only half qualified to skate that On was like, well, I'll only half qualify my body to skate, so I'm not even using my bottom half. And that's when he's like, can I use the other half? The coach is like, I guess. And it turns out he's a skating meister as well. So he goes about, he's getting everything, he's pushing past these guys, everything like that. And then finally, he's going in to score the goal, but he says, hey, Takalatsi, your brazen reflexes are a weapon, but you have to work on your bravery. So he sends the puck to him, and he says, you've guarded this club the whole time, so the one to decide its fate is you. And Takahashi shoots, and he scores. It's crazy. Haru High won. Awesome. And that's basically it. The end of the chapter is that they go into the club the next day. Haru's in there, and he's like, oh, cool, we got a club. And Haru's like, I told you, I'm quitting tomorrow. So, and it ends the joke of them giving him like a t-shirt that just says, I love ice hockey with it. So there are many more adventures for these two to have in the future, no doubt. And the Haru High School Club ice hockey team has certainly gotten a lot more interesting. What do you guys think of this one-shot chapter?
I loved it. I think there's lots more that would have to be. It's not a perfect formula for a series, but I think it has lots of potential, and I think with like some tweaks it would work really well as the beginning of a series. I think it's really fun to see On be like, the match isn't about him winning, it's about him getting Takahashi to win. And so like, I think that's kind of how they got around. They could have the fun of having him be super skilled and just one up everyone, while also not just make it like there's still some challenge to the match. Mm-hmm. And so I think there's potential, like that could be an interesting potential for a series, even if like he doesn't need to be flawed for it to have some challenge to it. But and I don't know, I appreciate the humor. I appreciate the absurdity of his like being skilled because he practiced with a broom all day and being trained to combat against ice. Like, I think that was a fun excuse for it. And I don't know if anyone's seen on Twitter, but I recently posted about how I collected the first volume of every ice hockey manga I could find in Japanese, because my girlfriend plays ice hockey and she's been really thirsty for ice hockey manga. And so might actually see some of them in the video behind me right now. But anyway, so I was really excited for this, and it lived up to that hype mostly. I just wish it were actually a series.
If you remember way back in the day for Weekly Manga Recap, one of the first bonus podcasts we did was the top 10 series that need sports manga that need to have a popular sports manga on it. And the second one was an ice hockey manga with the main character. His name was Daisuke Ashihara. Was no connection whatsoever. But that was when a lot of people were excited. Like the premise of like, oh, let's get like a really good ice hockey sports manga. It'd be really cool.
Yeah, well, wasn't it? It was like something 99.
It was like the legendary 99, and it was Daisuke Ashihara was the main character, and he was possessed by the ghost of Wayne Gretzky, who's dead, not dead in the series, but he was possessed by the ghost of him.
The thing that surprises me, so I don't know if anyone has been watching Terrace House, but it's a Japanese reality TV show. And for this current season that is being released on Netflix, one of the members of the house is a female ice hockey player, and she just wears jerseys of like random NHL teams. So my girlfriend and I are from Philly, and so she hates the Penguins. And this girl in Terrace House always wears Penguins shirts. So. But then I forget, I don't know NHL, I don't know hockey very well, but there are apparently other jerseys that are just like, what? Why like this random team that is not popular at all?
Isn't that?
So I don't know what's popular in Japan.
Is the premise of the show to scare people?
Terrace House?
Yeah.
It's not Terrorist House. It's
Terrace. I thought it was Terror's House. Okay. I didn't know. Well, because I remember if the wrestler Awesome Kong, known as Karma WWE, mentioned that being on a Japanese reality show, and the whole point of it was just to scare Japanese people, like in a house of some kind. So she was just this giant, woman who would just come out of the shadows and scare people. And that's why I was like, it's weird that they thought like her wearing all these different hockey jerseys would really add to the scare of it.
Like, oh, your bad taste. Oh,
she's like, a Thunder's jersey. They're terrible.
I thought I did not dig this one shot.
Tension between you and Jeff.
Well, so I like hockey and I really like Amano's art, but it didn't do anything for me. And I don't know if I can really say why. Maybe because I wanted an ice hockey manga that was just focusing on the actual sport and not that one character is super good at it, and he lets Takahashi win, and I do appreciate that, but I mean almost the entire match is look how cool this kid is, and he's really cool. I mean he's got some crazy moves, and I like that, but I don't know. It's just not sporty enough, I guess. But I really did like the stupid training stuff. Like these are a dragon's eggs. You better not drop them. that was like dumb enough that I was like, this is really funny to me. But I
can see where you're coming from. That maybe there's a little sports missing from this. I'll say that one of my bigger complaints when I read Hitman Reborn was that I like Amano's characters when they're vulnerable, but her like confident ones are just egregiously boring to me. Like Hibari, I think, was the cloud guy from Reborn. Oh, yeah. And I always like lost interest when Hibari had to get involved with something. So maybe that's a little bit of it too, but it is definitely still interesting to see it. I think ice hockey is such a great sport to do a manga of that it stuns me. We still haven't gotten like a huge ice hockey manga at any point, especially after Ice Shield 21 proved you could take a sport that's not popular in Japan and make a good series out of it. So
and ice hockey, it's such a good sport for that because you have all the violence. So, come on.
You have the violence. It's also a great sport in terms of like you could swing a game from a loss to a victory in a couple moments. It's one of those things that you can, like, when you have a sport with that kind of swing to it, it lends itself to dramatic storytelling in the right way.
Yeah. I think, sorry.
Well, so one thing I was wondering about, because I haven't read Ice Shield 21, and it seems like it'd be a common problem with that, is like, it must be hard to draw faces and character designs that are distinct while they're wearing helmets. But I assume Ice Shield 21 had the same problem and still solved that.
it basically used characters of very different body types, especially on the Devil Bats. There was like, their skill player positions tend to be shorter characters. The linemen were big and fat or big and muscular, things like that. So generally speaking, plus you had the numbers. And once you watched you for a little bit, you were able to, if you couldn't tell it immediately, you could tell off the numbers. So
I would love for this to be cleaned up and made into a series, if just to see more of Amano's art and to have hockey in Jump again.
And did you guys notice at the end where it said that this was Soul Society's South branch? That was crazy.
Soul Society Antarctica branch.
Yeah. That's me pointing out that apparently Nick and I both missed at the end of Burn the Witch. It mentions that this is the Soul Society West branch, which we still get comments about on just about every video. Like once a day, someone's like, did you guys really not notice that? No, we didn't notice it. We're dumb people.
When the end of that said, like, the letters were all colored in, so it read bleach, I was just like, oh, Kubo, no! No! Ugh. I did kind of like that one shot.
All right, let's move forward here so we don't run too low on time. This is chapter 193, My Hero Academia, Vestiges. And this entire chapter takes place in sort of, I don't know what you'd call it. It's sort of like a collective memory that I guess exists between the various holders of One for All.
It's the Avatar state.
It is the Avatar. That's probably the
that's
easiest way to
cool.
describe it. Yeah, it's just the Avatar state. So we see the conversation happen between the two brothers who are kind of the progenesis of all this. And One for All, or All for One rather, is talking about how, like, I use my powers for good. Meta powers are very important. And he talks about how one guy had this transformation and these fangs started to sprout all over his face. And he was a kind, reserved man who cared for his parents, but those parents had chased him out, calling him a monster after all this. And then there was a guy who had no ability at all. And when he was walking home from work one night, he was assaulted by a gang of metas, and the taser he brought was useless, so it did nothing. And he shows this image of him meeting these two guys and basically trading the things between them. So the guy with these horrible fangs was now cured and normal again. And the guy without them could now form spikes across his hands, and no longer would he feel threatened by these metas. And he's like, see, I made the world better. It's a world of chaos. And, what do you speak of? What do you see? I see people in need and a way to use my power for their sake. And I don't know, does this guy have we gotten an actual name for the original All for One or One for All guy?
I don't remember.
Because I feel like the brothers themselves don't even refer to one another by name at all. They just seem to call them the First Wielder and everything like that. So I'll just call him that for right now. The First Wielder says, no, you're twisting things around. All you're doing is recruiting more loyal servants and everything like that. And All for One counters that by being like, they needed someone to cling to. By denying me that, you deny the joy I've brought him. And he has a very sadistic and cruel circular logic to everything he's doing that I love and seeing in a villain. Like, this is like basically one long villain speech chapter as he explains why he's like, why are you trying to stop me? I'm doing good for the world.
It's so nice to see this after, like, I'm going to use this EMP robot and just get money and be evil.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going to break your leg, robot.
Yeah, because I'm mean.
And he talks about all of his sort of things, and he has this big other speech, and he's like, how pitiful those born without meta powers of their own. They lack the strength to see their convictions through. Oh, but I do still love my brother of mine, my only family. And as we found out later, he basically imprisoned his own brother after that point, which is pretty dark. They talk about how the world was pretty chaotic at that point as all these metas started to really pop into existence. There was so little control of all of it. But this guy had the ability to basically make peace with all that because he could take away all these powers. So he'd go up to them and he said, well, to you powerless ones, I present a choice. Forgiveness to those who have sinned. I give to all whatever they may seek. That is, if you agree to join me. And he created like a full army out of giving all these non-powered people powers by taking it away from others. And then he visits his brother, who's he imprisoned. And he's like, oh, you're wasting away. And he's trying to basically convince his brother, like, give in, Some of those metas form gangs, abusing their powers to commit mischief. One such group stood up to me. They rejected my new world order and they were a threat, so they were eliminated. And not on my orders. My many friends just respect me that much, so on their own, they did it in the pursuit of order. And it's, he talks about how thrilling, how they move according to my will. It's like a dream come true, just like in that comic you used to read. But the first wielder says, like, hey, you know what? You didn't finish that book, dumbass. You only read up to the part where the villain won, because the hero always comes out ahead in the end.
Spoilers.
All for One grabs and he says, yes, fantasy has come reality, but reality doesn't follow that old playbook. If you refuse to submit, then I'll just rewrite the story. You matter to me, so I've dug up a meta ability that even you, in your feeble state, can use. So walk this path with me. And he, presumably, that is when he gives his brother One for All. And then as the vision begins to fade, Deku starts hearing somebody else. And that person, presumably the first wielder, is saying, you must be the ninth. And we cut over to a flashback in which All Might explained to him that whatever those vestiges are, they can't directly interfere or influence you, nor can you affect them. So apparently, maybe All Might was wrong, because this one is saying that he wanted to show Deku more, but he's only at 20%. Be careful, we've already passed the singularity. But fear not, you are not alone. And then we cut to Aoyama, who is woken up by Deku calling a racket. And he goes into Deku's room, and Deku has fucked his room up. It's torn all apart. His chair's knocked over. It looks like he ripped his bed sheets as well. It's awful. And that's the chapter. And there's a glowing mark across his hand. I don't know if the mark is supposed to mean something specific. What do you guys think?
I just kind of figured it was the power coursing through his hand, but I don't know.
Yeah, it seems a bit too ugly to be like a permanent style for him. Or like, it seems like it makes sense if it's like a power-up thing. I thought this chapter was really exciting. I mean, a story is something that we've heard about before, so it wasn't like new information, but I think it was really well handled, and it was really believable and realistic. And some of like the specific phrasing of like, I get the names mixed up all the time, of All for One, being like, oh, there's my cat making noises. But like All for One saying like, oh, well, they didn't do it on my orders. They just did it because they respect me so much. Like so many real world parallels to shitty people online. Like it's just,
yeah.
Like I think the one aspect that I think doesn't really hold up so well is the whole, like, I like the idea that comic books were like at the core of this conflict that spawned this whole universe, but also like this, like, oh, I was really inspired by how cool this villain was. Like, I don't know about that. Like, that seems a bit too mustache twirly.
It's one of those things. I loved, like, when I saw Logan, I loved it, but the part that always annoyed me was like, comic books existed in these world. It was the stories of us. I'm like, why did you have to make the comic books a real thing? Like, they don't have to.
But I think the thing that most excites me about this chapter is the part about Deku, about All Might being wrong about the past spirits influencing him, because that's something that I've been waiting for in My Hero since this first was foreshadowed with the during the school festival or the sports festival. Because I always found the series weird for like Deku following in the footsteps of All Might to a T. That it's like, this previous owner of One for All was also the number one hero. And so like you as a new owner of One for All will also be the number one hero. And like, I just like Deku should be his own person and should be unique in some way and should hopefully like surpass All Might, like do something that is better than, and like is different at least, and maybe surpasses him. And so like this idea that like, which I assumed was going to be coming from that moment that he had those visions of the past owners, that like, whatever All Might knew about this, Deku can exceed that and know more and interact with it more in some way, I think is really promising and interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a pretty awesome chapter, and I really like how Deku has been drawn in this kind of just kind of like the top half of his face and then the
It's so
shadows.
creepy.
It's so like when I first saw it, I guess it was at the end of last chapter. I was like, is he wearing a ninja outfit? That's really cool. And I was a little bit disappointed that it's not, but it's pretty clearly not. So
it's supposed to be, I think that's 20% of him. That's how much can exist in here, I think.
Oh.
So he's 20% ninja, I see.
20%.
But also, it's the same cutout of Dobby's face, though. I mean, no, Dobby's face is cut out under the nose, right?
So is what?
Then he has under the eyes a little bit too, I think.
Do you think Midoriya is also Endeavor's son?
Oh, Dobby is time traveling Deku. Oh yeah, they both start with D.
That's enough of a link for me to start fan theories on.
You know, Dobby has a nose, whereas this Deku thing. Wait, no. Yeah, this Deku thing does not have a nose.
I like this meta user that has all the fangs.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really like his design. And like, oh, people are calling him a monster. I'm like, that's a goddamn shame because
I want you to have this affliction you don't want anymore. You hate it and your parents throw you out, but it makes you sad and relatable.
Like, he looks so freaking cool. And then when his power gets transferred, like the other dude, he just uses it as spikes, and that's really boring and ugly looking. I'm very disappointed. I love the big fangs. I'm sorry, Monster Man.
We've really affirmed this week that Annaliese just wants characters to be sad and miserable. That's all she wants out of these series.
He just needs to see the good in himself and not depend on the hate of others. You can't cling to that. You have to make every day a good day. You can't expect other people to approve of you all the time, Mr. Fang Man.
Mm-hmm.
I like your fangs.
Fair enough.
Also, the best part of this is Aoyama's pajamas.
Yes, he has very nice pajamas. He seems very comfortable.
And let me see these pajamas. Yeah, they're pretty nice. Yeah.
Before we move on, I really quickly want to note that there is a poll currently running that the English Viz Jump is going to be doing a character popularity poll for My Hero Academia. It's for your anniversary. You can go to the website, viz.com/Shonen Jump. If you scroll down towards the bottom, you will see that there is like a more from Shonen Jump blog, and there's a character popularity poll, My Hero Academia. Click that. It'll take you to a link. Small problem, though. Gang Orca is not listed as one of the options, so you're going to have to write them in. So I'm doing it right here. You can easily, while I'm doing this live in episode, you can easily open up, again, viz.com/Shonen Jump, scroll to the bottom, you'll find it. Scroll all the way to the bottom of the popularity poll, other write-in, gang space, remember the space, it's 2 words, Orca. And then you hit submit, and boom. Gang Orca votes submitted. So guys, make sure you get those Gang Orca votes in. Fuck Mirko. We have no time for a Gang Orca. He got left out of that color spread.
All right. I'm writing it in right now.
Thank you.
Gang space Orca.
The only morally correct answers are Bakugo or Kirishima.
No.
One of the two of them.
It's Gang Orca.
Gang Orca or Aizawa are the answers.
I'm sorry. Have you seen him? His tie is his tongue. He is beyond awesome. It needs to be Gang Orca.
That is A+ character design.
He has.
His name is Gang Orca. He's wearing a suit. He's an orca.
He has claws, just like whales do.
Has he hit the anime yet? I don't think so.
I don't think he has officially yet. So I think we're waiting. Because that should be... Is the My Hero anime still running, or is it season break?
It hasn't hit the break yet.
Okay. So I think they're going to get to it, because where they are is right before when Gang Orca shows up. So if they do the license exam this season, then he'll be in it. Yes. All right. So let's cut over then to One Piece chapter 913. Jesus, this series is still running. God bless you, Oda. The Crane returns the favor. So last time, Zoro met up with Luffy as Otama was very sick and needed to be saved. But they ran into Basil Hawkins, one of Kaido's men, and who many of us might remember as being part of the worst generation as well, the 11 supernovas. Some people forgot about him, but not me, because he was my favorite. I loved Basil Hawkins. And this chapter is partially a fight with Basil Hawkins. But I want to note that we start off, And Zoro's like, where'd you get that sword? It looks really good. And Luffy's response is, it's verily a good blade, right? And then he goes into combat and he starts by just throwing the scabbard into the fight. And you just see Zoro like, what are you doing? Don't throw the scabbard. And then he just punches a guy with the hand holding the sword. He's like, why are you even holding it?
It takes so much skill to launch his fist like that and not hit anyone with the sword.
It's very impressive. We see that one of the snake monsters, like Luffy grabs it and hurls it at Hawkins, and Hawkins uses his sword, which turns to like straw and pierces through the monster, and it's very strange. It even starts to make like a slurping sound as it happens. And we find out very quickly why that is, because Zoro inflicts what looks to be a very bad shot, and it hits Hawkins, but while Hawkins looks like he takes the attack, somebody else completely separate to him looks like they take the attack instead, and that dude's just down. And Hawkins is impressive as this little straw man kind of crawls out of his arm and falls to the ground. And Hawkins explains that he is a straw man with the powers of the straw fruit. Now we did know this to a certain extent. We didn't know the exact specifics of his fruit since that fight with Kizaru like 5 years ago or whatever now. I think it's even longer than that. But he explains that he can basically take in the lives of those he's around and use them as extra lives, more or less. And he also has a tarot card gimmick that's not connected to his power, but very thematically similar, I guess it feels like. So he could use that to basically create risks. But I like that it's like specifically, it's like, there are some good cards and bad cards, because the one he starts with, he's like, the Fool reversed. Well, shit, all my dudes will start killing each other. Next round, though, I'm going to get a good one.
Yeah, I like it. He's like, yeah, sorry.
This is probably the closest we'll get to an in-universe One Piece gacha.
Yeah. Holy shit. You're just like, put some more gems in it. What are you doing? Keep drawing. They're trying
to... I hate the Japanese word gem because it's written with the same first two characters of Jeff.
Oh, so you think they're talking about you? They're like, Jeff, use some gems.
Yeah.
Does that trick ever work on you?
No,
not yet.
All the gems. I am the gem.
You're like, I'm the true gem here. Katy Perry said I was in one of her many songs. They're running away, but then he draws the Hierophant reversed, which gives him the card of pursuit. So he's too fast, and he's even overpowering Zoro with his swings, because he can turn into he basically creates like a straw stand of himself. I don't know how else to describe it. It's like a stand bankai sort of thing, like just a giant straw monster floating after them. And it shoots out nails and all these things. Zoro cuts it, and just one other member of his crew dies. And I love Hawkins' face as this happens. He's like, shink, and he's just this really frowny face.
So perturbed.
As one of his dudes like, oh God, no! I never saw Paris. And he's just like... Before they can have anything else happen, he draws the card of reinforcements, and he says someone will lead them to a clean escape, so they back off. And Zoro and crew run into Otsuru, the tea house owner. And she says that she is the woman they saved earlier. Her name is Suru, and I love the aesthetic design of her. I know this is another famous painting. I don't know the name of it at all, but this art style is outright historical Japanese painting style, and I love it. This entire arc is just so aesthetically awesome. She gives them some help, just so we can cut forward here. She gives them some help. They were going to go to a doctor, but it's probably easier just to take them to this tea house. We go there.
T's a doctor.
Yeah. T's basically doctor. There's a tea waitress, Okiku, and she is, being hit on by this Yokozuna. His name is Urashima, the greatest sumo wrestler in Wano. And in my mind, I saw him and I was just like, Jinbei has to fight this guy. I don't know if he's a bad person yet, but the dudes are identical. They're mirrored. So it's got to happen at some point. And that's when we see Suru and them showing up saying Otama drank from the poisoned river. Okiku says she's going to get right on it. And then we cut aside two members of Law's crew, including the bear who's Beppo. I almost forgot his name. Beppo the bear, who is wearing his kimono and a top knot. I don't know how they put his hair into a top knot.
The top knot is so good.
And they note that, hey, if you know I'm right, it's the Straw Hats. Should we get them in, before trouble starts? And the one guy says, you're going to stick out too much if you do, Beppo. I guess because bears with top knots aren't normal there. What did you guys think of the chapter this week?
The action in this fight was really hard to follow. Like the mechanics of the straw body double extra lives, still pretty confused about.
It's a little bit quick. It was quickly introduced and a little maybe too much. I think it's a really neat power, and I love Hawkins's expressions. Especially that one where he's just like, ugh. And I love seeing Beppo again.
Yes. I will note, I'm not super pumped at Law's crew showing up again. It feels like not that long ago since they were another part of the... Like, Dressrosa wasn't that long ago, and Law's crew being like a factor in that was sort of like huge. So... I'll be curious to see how this plays out this time. But it makes sense. Wano is shaping up to be a huge arc in terms of like One Piece's overall length. Kaido is involved in this. So there's a lot of big factors. Plus there's also 3 other members of the Supernovas here. Or actually 4, I guess, because Killer is a member of the Supernovas as well. So there's a lot of people involved with that. So Law being involved again might still be pretty important. So some cool stuff going on. I'm excited for that. But I just love the art style in this, and the moment I saw Urashima, I'm like, Jinbei better fight this guy.
I like how happy he looks. He just looks so excited. Like, yeah, come on, yeah, woo.
Okay, for everybody who's correcting me in chat, yes, Law's crew wasn't involved in Dressrosa, but Law is. To be frank, outside of Beppo being a talkie bear, I don't give a fuck about Law's crew. So, just noting, when I say Law being involved, I'm really kind of restricted just to talk about Law. So, fair enough there. Let's move on then. Promised Neverland, Chapter 98, starting sound. The kids are off on their journey, but we got a little flashback first. We got cut to Peter Rattray murdering a bunch of people at gunpoint in pure execution style, which is a bit surprising. We don't get a lot of like bloodshed in Promised Neverland, so we start off the chapter with a bunch of people who are helping, who are considered traitors, being murdered, and then we cut to a bunch of armed soldiers breaking into the base. We see Emma sleeping. They're gonna break into the room, and what? Nobody's there. And then we turn back the clock, swing back the pendulum, you might say, to exactly 6 o'clock. Chris, the annoying fuckhead, is running around with pots and pans. I do relate to this child. I came in. I also make a lot of loud noise. I scream a lot. I know what it's like to be you, Chris. You just want attention. You'll be loved one day. Also, I don't know if he wears pants at all. It looks like he doesn't. That concerns me. Gotta get out of that habit, buddy. They don't let you in places once you start doing that. They note that everybody's still hanging around here. We even see Adam is a part of that group. I only note that because for the past couple weeks we haven't actually seen Adam in any of the panels. But Adam is in part with everybody else there. They talk about how
big he is compared to everybody.
They spread all the work chores around. It's tough. They have less food because they're feeding now 63 people instead of the initial, 23 or something like that escaped from Gracefield House. I forget how many exactly, but they have a lot less food, but they're like, hey, we're all happy. We have a lot more friends. The positive way of thinking of it. Jillian, I guess, just has the innate ability to create fabric and put patches on everyone's clothes. I don't know if Adam enjoys it. He has a question bar, a question mark next to his face. I guess he puts up with it. But yeah, even Adam helps out with the chores and everything like that. And he just repeats Emma's number and over again. And they're like, oh, where is Emma right now? They're like, oh, probably with Ray in the secret room. And we see it's a room with just a single payphone. And I guess a bunch of books next to Ray. I guess that's his job, is to sit there by that phone and just read books, probably to keep him away from everybody else. They note that they need to get in touch with the supporters because, even if the supporters were killed by their enemies, they're like, hey, we should still get in contact with them. But if we do, we basically, to get the phone line working, have to put ourselves back on the grid. And there's some defense mechanisms in place. But once we put ourselves back on the grid, everyone's going to know about what's happening then. So they decide to do that. They're going to go for it. They get a call eventually that says like, hey, stay put. You'll hear from us again soon. So you guys got to defend yourself. But we cut over to Peter Rattray and someone he's talking to who notes like, the one we found was a dummy shelter. And, there's tracks that are confusing us. So it can't be those kids. Cause even if they're that smart, they're amateur children. There's no way they could have erased everything. So somebody's helping them and planting fake ones to mislead us. So the kids are going to try to stay put as Andrew is coming after them. He's the bad guy. I wish he had a more threatening name than Andrew. But we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, they get the message saying, hey, don't move from there. We're going to come for you. And then we get an image of what looks to be a man. It's tough to sell because it's an image from the back and he's got a cloak on. We know that some of the demons had more humanoid sort of appearances, but they usually had something going on with their head and like horns and stuff. So maybe this is a human. It might not be though. Still, we shall see.
I think this fabric, this cloth looks a lot more like demon stuff, demon clothes at least.
It could be. It very well could be. We don't know yet, but this person says, now I just hope you can stay alive, young boys and girls. So that looks to be what this next arc is going to be. It's about the kids, I guess, now being on the defensive and trying to survive, which is a sort of unique take for Promised Neverland. Previously, they've been trying to survive, but it's always been in like an aggressive, trying to sort of escape manner. Whereas this one looks like they have to bunker down and survive because they won't live if they leave this base, essentially. So, interesting sort of premise. What did you guys think of the chapter?
I thought it was pretty cool. It sets up a lot, and now that we're actually seeing Peter and Andrew. I think it's interesting to see because we knew that Peter was kind of evil a while ago, but it's been so heavily look at these evil demons. It's neat to see. Yes, sorry, my cat's poking me. It's neat to see the quote unquote evil humans in the game now.
That's true. It's a new faction to really explore.
Yeah, and I like the like super threat that these humans are posing, and I don't know, this framing of the them storming the dummy shelter I thought was really effective. I was kind of stupid and didn't realize what was going on. I was like, oh no, how are they going to escape in time? Oh no, like how are they going to do it? Oh, it's a dummy. Oh, okay, that makes a lot more sense.
It took me a while too.
But yeah, that was a good hook for the chapter, and because it starts off with like showing them like potentially doomed, and then just lingering on like how impractical it would actually be to evacuate all these kids. There are so many of them. They're so just having fun and being kids, which probably means they're not going to have much time of doing that left.
What's the
happiness?
What's the over and under on Andrew joining the group afterwards? Like maybe they turn him and they make him a good guy.
I bet they're going to capture him and he's going to be their prisoner for a long time, and he'll eventually turn, but it's going to take a long time.
That's a good prediction. Jeff, you should put a free pizza bet on that. We get to start spreading it. By the way, it's trademark. If you win a free pizza off that, I need to get one slice because we trademark the pizza bets on this show, by the way. So if anyone ever bets a pizza on something, we get a cut of that.
You'll get it in the mail.
This is just a greasy moldy envelope. I'm like, hot dog.
Take it to the post office. They're like, are you sending food or anything? No, not at all.
Do they ask that?
No, they ask other things like, are there any lithium batteries? Is there any like drugs in this? No.
Because I really want to see what would happen if you just put like in a normal size envelope too, just like a slice of pizza inside the envelope.
You're like, well, there's enough postage on it. Oh God.
That's what you guys are going to have to figure out when you send me this slice of pizza, whatever this pizza bet happens. Just remember, I'll screw with Hawaiian style, but nothing with anchovies, please. It's bad for my digestive system.
The pineapple won't stay on inside the envelope, I don't think.
I'm not assuming this pizza's coming to me in like a physical form. It's going to be a coagulation of bread and cheese and maybe some toppings by the time it gets to me. I'm fine with that. I have no pride left for myself anymore. I'll eat this envelope pizza. You can trust me on that.
Can't tell where the envelope stops and the pizza starts.
There's enough grease on it that does it really matter anymore? No. All right, let's move over to 7 Deadly Sins chapter. Oh, this one's really hard. 277. There's no way to free yourself from love. There we go. All good.
Which, does that have anything to do with the chapter?
Very remotely. It plays into the very end with Durere and Monspeet's sort of deal, I believe.
Yeah, I guess.
So last week, Durere got fucking ganked, as was obvious, because she gave her whole, 2 days left till retirement speech, basically. So she dies. Her commandment's floating in the air. King tries to stop it, but he can't. He's too out of energy. The other Seraph tries to stop it, basically says, if you absorb it, you'll no longer be yourself. But nothing can stop them now. Mail absorbs the commandment, disappears in this giant flash of light, and we cut away to Durere, who's woken up in a flashback because she's hearing Monspeet talk about how they say Melodius killed Aranok before Aranok could execute the goddess's prisoner of wars fleeing the demon world. And basically, we see current Durere watching Monspeet talk to a previous, a past scene of herself, Durere, that was much more aggressive and angry. And the big thing to note out of it is that Monspeet has this part where he's like, what if we did what Melodius did? And Durere at that time's like, what are you talking about? Don't talk nonsense. And he's like, oh, just kidding. And then quietly under his breath, he's like, not.
I cross my fingers.
And that's when she flies away, and Monspeet says aloud to, what would he think only be himself, but I guess the power of love, Durere is present in a scene she wasn't there for at this part where she's like, oh, he says, I can't leave you by myself. And that's when she realized that Monspeet always kind of had this plan to leave the 10 Commandments and go off, but he wasn't going to leave her alone. He knew that she needed him and basically her journey. So that's why she went with him anyway. And then we cut back to the present where Elizabeth's tending to her and says, I'm not going to let your wish be in vain. And I'll stop them both for you. And for Melodius, I'll swear I'll save you. And then we see this giant thing of light in the sky. It's huge. We've seen the amphitheater where they're fighting, and this light is in scope larger than that, across the distance. So it's pretty huge. Tamiel, I think, is the one with a bunch of faces, is holding on to Sariel. It doesn't matter. One of them's dead now, and the other one dies immediately after, so it's not too important to remember. But Sariel says, this mission was a failure. I used up all my strength. I can't believe you messed up like that. And that was our one chance to stop him, but now neither light nor darkness can stop them. So the only one who have a chance are the fairy or the giant or perhaps even the human. But they note that even the fairy king looks like, even if he was fully recovered, probably wouldn't have a chance. And Tamiel's like, Mail, remember the kind soul you used to be. And something straight out of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, he gets beamed through the face and the mouth, and you see his mouth ripping apart.
That is brutal.
He gets done dirty in this chapter. If you were a Tamiel fan, I don't know why you were, but if you were, he does not go out in a dignified manner. It's just oh, what? Remember who you used to be? Oh.
That's why he has multiple faces. He just lost one face.
He can still talk to the other ones.
It's like a cat. 9 lives. Well, now he's got 6 faces. He's fine.
Exactly.
Someone had the worst haircut anyway.
Oh.
Saw these giant explosions going around, and Gauther saying, I'm so sorry, this is all my fault. I don't know what's going on. But he takes one of the blasts that was going towards Elizabeth, and it starts to disintegrate his arm off. And he says, I thought if I just sacrifice myself, it would solve everything. But his anger could not be assuaged. In fact, it has gotten even more out of hand. So please grant me this mail that I may fight you to protect my friends. That's the end of the chapter. It seems like an interesting chapter. I like Gauther having some conviction. We've noted before, Gauther was on the right track for a while. So having this whole thing be like, oh, another problem, it's Gowther's fault, but this is one he's owning up for and dealing with in a better way is definitely a more interesting way of taking this character. And I'm super intrigued to see where that goes. I don't know what he could, like, Maya was already too strong for them before at 3 Commandments, so I'm kind of curious what they're going to have to pull out to be like, well, now they beat him, so we're going to see.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Gowther being the one at fault or whatever is such a tenuous connection. It's kind of like he was there when the other Gowther told him that it was a thing he was doing. You know, it's like, yeah, that doesn't really count. And like, I feel like the stuff with Mail. So I basically fell behind on 7 Deadly Sins and like last week read like the 10 chapters that I had been falling behind on. And the stuff with Mail, I think was a really interesting build up. Like for weeks they were selling off about, oh my God, this cat. Anyway, oh my God. He gets fed automatically at 7 o'clock. So he's like, I know the food's coming. Anyway, so Estarosta, like there was stuff like off about him for weeks and like, it was like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? And like, I feel like the reveal was effective, was a great buildup, but like, I don't know, some of the like Gowther being the one that's involved in it, I'm like, that feels like the weakest part of it. And like, it was really just like, because they didn't really fully wrap up Gowther, original Gowther, wheelchair Gowther's storyline, I feel like you kind of needed to like add something more to that. And this was like the final, like that's how he disappeared, because he did this magic that was really big, and so that's why he died. Like, I guess
it is.
So I don't know.
Yeah, and we've been down the road of Gowther being the fault of things before, but ultimately, I'm glad to see Mail is turning out to be something important, as opposed to just like this was like a 3-month like delay in everything. It's like, oh, okay, this dude's actually supposed to be impactful to the grand storyline of things, and there's consequences happening about. No one really cared about the 2 archangels dying, but Durere and another one, the 10 Commandments now being gone, is a pretty significant thing.
Yeah. I gotta complain, not about the chapter,
okay,
but about Crunchyroll's display of the chapter.
Ooh,
like they always
is this Viz versus Crunchyroll?
no. So they have the first page on the left side, but it should be a color spread. So they've broken up this color spread, so it affects how it's read just slightly. And so things you should be able to read as a spread are broken up. And I don't think there are actually any 2-page spreads beyond the beyond that first color page. But it really bugs me because you don't need to do this. There's a blank white page on page quote unquote 1.
Can I take this critique, change it to a clickbait title, and submit it to like Anime News Network? Like, employee of Viz says Crunchyroll's manga reader sucks balls.
Yes, you can.
Yes.
See, I read this on my iPad and iPhone, and in their manga app for iOS, you can't even view 2-page spreads. You can only, if you turn it to landscape, it just lets you scroll vertically.
I didn't even
which
know
is
they
nice,
had
a nice feature,
app.
but
it doesn't work for the spreads.
Yeah, I want the spreads.
Gotta give me them spreads. All right, let's wrap this up then with We Never Learn question 74. Sometimes a predecessor experiences formidable X's.
So I hear you've got feelings about this chapter.
I have a couple feelings on this chapter, yes. So the chapter starts with one of the professors or teachers at the school saying the home ec teacher is out, so Kirasu, can you take over for her? And she's like, of course. But as we know, Kirisu's fucking incompetent at everything in the world that is not teaching. She can't do any of it right. So of course she can't cook either.
I mean,
so
she doesn't even teach that well, right? That's how she was introduced, that she was a bad tutor. So
that is true. I guess it's figure skating in the past and seeming reliable in moments when it's important. Those are the 2 things she's really good at. So she runs into Uega because they don't even bury the lead in being like, it's another Uega helps Kirisu chapter, don't worry. It's like not like he even shows up at her house. It's just like the next page he's like, oh, you're getting groceries? I guess I'll help you cook. Let's cut over. She realizes she doesn't own an apron. So Uega gets her an apron. I guess it's a sexy apron. I don't know. I don't do a lot of apron shopping. It's shaped like a heart at the top. And she's like, are you into this sort of thing? And I'm too distracted by the fact that her skirt is really weirdly fitting to her body. It's strange. It's sheer. You can see her underwear through her for some reason. I don't understand how this works.
She just doesn't know how to dress. Like, well, there we go. She's incompetent in like everything, even dressing herself. She always gets like 3 sizes too small. How they haven't ripped is beyond me.
I don't know.
God, I don't mind the fan service, but this is too much. Your skirt shouldn't be sucked up your ass. It looks so painful. I hate it so much.
I can't even, my mind really has trouble contemplating what a skirt wedgie even does. Like, I feel like my mind can't process it. I'm like, well, hold on, the fabric would it'd go the whole way down then? What? Fuck it, I can't. Like it really is. It's like staring into confusion for me. Like I'm just like, there's numbers going across.
She's worried about this sexy apron when like nobody's gonna be looking at that if you turn around and you can see your ass on display with the lines of your goddamn underwear. Like, who is really gonna be like, oh look, it's a cute little heart in front when it's just like, damn girl, damn that ass.
And we actually can see later from a far away shot, it's still visible then. So I don't know how bad and egregious it is, but it's monumental. Anyway, there's some stuff there. She goes to start cooking, but Yuega's like, holy shit, you're so bad at living. Your kitchen's a mess. I'll clean it for you first. So she cleans it and tries to give him a reward. And somehow she fucks up hamburgers so bad. There's not even a physical object on the plate. There's just brown, like steaming speckles across the plate. And she's like, did I do it right? It's like, have you ever heard of a hamburger before? What'd you do?
Yeah.
And he takes a bite and he's like, maybe looks aren't important. I'm like, it should look in the physical realm of a hamburger. Like, it's not like, it's like, maybe this is like a 4th dimension hamburger and I can't comprehend how it's supposed to look. But it's bitter and hard and salty, she describes. I don't know how there is enough physical actual burger there for them to eat and get that impression.
What does he bite into? Yeah, like
you can see he takes like a bite out of, I guess, like one of the speckles on the plate. I don't know. So she starts again. And, he's like, there's like a little scene where she's like, can you help pull my hair back so that I can make hamburgers without putting hamburger in my hair? I've never had long hair. I don't know if this is a problem. I just assume it is. It's a very romantic scene between them. And then, he starts making hamburgers with her and he's like, gee, making hamburgers is kind of essential. And I'm like, I've made hamburgers so many times, countless times. Never once have I been like, this is kind of an erotic experience. It's like, being a teacher must be hard. Even if you're not good at something, people, you wouldn't want anyone to know. And she says, I don't care what anyone thinks of me. They can look down on me or dislike me. But even if it's not my strength, it's my duty to do everything I can to prepare and do my best, to give my students a chance to grow, and I can't let those opportunities go to waste. That's an important thing, kind of sentiment for her to have when the premise of the series is about a guy teaching a bunch of like other students who are trying to go against their chosen strengths because that's what they want. It's a good thing to have. So maybe it's some character growth for Kirisu. She tries it again. Same shit happens. Just smoking pebbles of something on a plate. I don't understand how if Yuega was next to her, how it got to this point. Like, if you burn a hamburger, it doesn't explode and evaporate.
Yeah, this amount of burger meat makes sense if it exploded and that's just what's left on the plate and it's otherwise elsewhere in the apartment.
So he's like...
How is the apartment not, like, on fire or, like, the smoke alarm going off, or... It's
really the biggest plot hole of this series, because you're just like, for Kirisu to be this bad at everything, how was she not drowned in her bathtub, or burnt her apartment down, or, like, tripped over her own shoe and impaled herself on a doorknob? Like, her life must be constantly Final Destination. Just a giant Rube Goldberg machine around for her to fail at every turn. So Yuega's like, can I take a look at that recipe? She's like, I wasn't using one. Recipes are ineffective and complicated.
Wait. I like how she says this after. It's my duty to do everything I can to prepare and do my best.
She's like, I don't follow instructions. Fuck that nonsense. Rakdos for life. Chaos. It feels like it's so against her character to not follow recipes.
It does seem weird. She seems like a very law-abiding, rule-following person, but
maybe not. So Yuiga gives the whole speech. He's like, you would be angry if a student took a test without looking at a test book. So to follow a proper recipe, you have to kind of, do it by the letter. You can't do it without a solid foundation. And she starts to pout. And he even notes, he's like, what is she, a child? And he also admits it's kind of cute, which I disagree with. I'd be like, follow the fucking recipe. How much money did you waste on these ingredients that just went to nothing? So after following the recipe, she makes something good. She teaches the class. Everyone's impressed because she basically regurgitates what Yuiga taught her, and they're all like, wow, she's so feminine and awesome. She can cook and everything. She's the perfect superwoman. And Yuiga just walks by like, yeah, but she sucks. That's a chapter.
I gotta say, I am hungry for hamburgers now. Not her hamburgers.
How can you possibly? There isn't a hamburger in the chapter.
Well, no, if you look really close on that second to last page, they're eating an average tasting hamburger.
Wait, is that what hamburgers look like in Japan?
Well, they're not eating it like a... So you can see earlier on, they've got instant rice. So they're eating it with rice. They're just making the patty. They're not eating it like a hamburger with a bun and stuff.
But even from the image, it looks like it doesn't look like even like a cooked patty. It doesn't look like firm or anything. Maybe it's hard to tell. From hers, it looks like almost like a mound of something. So I was wondering if this is something where they changed it to hamburger. Like this is like the jelly donuts of Viz, where you guys are like, people, they won't understand anything else. Just call it hamburger. That's all these simple, stupid Americans can figure out.
I do not know.
What'd you think of the chapter, Jeff? Because I know your favorite girl's Karasu. You've mentioned it time and time again. You've been adamant about this point, almost aggressively. So I'll be honest.
I don't know. I mean, I think this is the chapter like stretches the gag of not being able to do something the farthest to like. It's just so beyond the realm of possibility that I think it loses the fun and is just like, no, this like makes no like, I don't know. I mean, it is fun. It is funny, but it's like, you're supposed to be like, have some intelligence, be able to do something. Like you see, like the idea that she would fail over and over and then be like, not even think to look at a recipe is
and her putting in like, okay, well, basically you've just got to make the meat into patties, right? Like, okay, yeah, like if you didn't know how to make hamburger like patties, like, yeah, that's logical. But then, luckily, I had some pancake mix I bought 3 years ago and some gelatin. Like, where the hell does that come from? Like, I could see if it was just the meat, but like, it was why?
Yeah. Karasu chapters are always the best. We should always appreciate them. A+ ones every time they come around. And with that is going to be the end of Weekly Manga Recap this week. So let's move on real quick to our favorites. Chapter of the week at MVP. Starting, of course, first with a gacha pool. We'll see who gets it. Jeff, of course you won the gacha pool. What is your favorite chapter of the week?
Is it fair to pick? Is it fair to pick one shots? Can I pick hot?
Yeah, you can pick one hot. Yeah, anything we talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's
like favorite character, Robot Donkey Kong.
Well, I mean, that Dojin was really great in my mind.
It went places. It really was pretty sophisticated too.
Wait, we're doing series now or characters too?
Series and characters. You can do them at once.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like most of the series this week were kind of a bit lackluster and like just average, aside from My Hero and then Hot. And the Hot, I think I had to give it a Hot just for like wanting an Aisaki manga for so long, and like finally there's something. There's like it's not the best, but it has potential, and it could be a thing. Maybe it was decent for what it was, and I don't have a character.
And they don't have to. If you're making a statement like nobody was good this week, not for Jeff's opinions.
I'll keep thinking about character.
Okay, Annaliese, what was your chapter of the week? For
a chapter, it's My Hero.
Okay.
And for character, it's Basil Hawkins.
Okay.
Hawkins. If only, like, I'm kind of with Jeff. Like, I don't know. It's kind of hard to pick a character because I didn't think anybody did anything that super stood out, but Hawkins's expressions made me laugh a lot. So I give it to him.
That's very fair. I'll agree with you guys. I'll agree with you, Annaliese, at least when I say chapter of the week is My Hero. And I'm going to give my character of the week for All for One. Because I definitely just love that it was a weirdly, like, deep kind of character villain to get, especially in a week where we had some pretty, like, as mentioned, like mustache twirling sort of villains. Then we got one who you're like, oh, there's like real sinister like nature to this guy. He believes he's the good guy in this story, and those usually are the best villains. So I love the sort of speeches he gave.
Yeah, and I'm going to agree with that favorite character. And yeah, I feel like Horikoshi has a really great understanding of like motivation and stuff like that. So little times where it shines through are great.
Yeah,
absolutely. All right, that's going to do it for the episode. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Of course, if you want to catch Weekly Manga Recap, we have new episodes. Go up on youtube.com/Weekly Manga Recap or on Podbean, podbean.com/Weekly Manga Recap. Or you can find us on iTunes, where you can leave us a 5-star review. Help us beat the woodworking podcast, which we desperately need. The woodworkers are always getting one up on us. So please, if you can, give us a 5-star review, leave a comment, let us know that we're better than the woodworkers. Because if we're not, you got to let us know that too. But I assume we're better than the woodworkers. They can't. Their podcast can't possibly be better than ours. Like, did they mention? Did they let you know that there's a Donkey Kong wiki? I don't think so. So obviously that's a favor in our book. If you guys have any questions, comments, suggestions, anything like that, you can hit us up with an email over at weeklymangarecap@yahoo.com. That's why Nick does this part usually. And we also have a Discord right now too. We'll try to include the link when we put up YouTube videos. Sometimes I forget about that, but I'll go back in and edit it in afterwards. So you can go check it out in the Discord. And we also have a channel in our Discord for you guys to send in recommendations for series to look at. That's where we've gotten the last couple that we've taken a look at. So that's a good place to send them in if you're interested. And of course, if you want to support the show directly, you can go do it at patreon.com/Weekly Manga Recap. Your support is greatly appreciated. Me and Nick have a couple different ideas currently in the works for new things we're going to put out through there as well. So it's always a cool thing. You can also get bonus podcasts, cool stuff like that as well. So that's going to do it. Oh, also special thanks to Steve Mann, our title card artist, and Infamous Plan, who made up this new screen frame thing for us for this special week where we had Annaliese and Jeff on, but no Nick. And if you weren't here for when the show started, I did have an image for Jeff as well. He's a gachapon machine. So I'll just show you that right there in case you missed it. And that is going to do it for Weekly Manga Recap this week. Do you guys have anything you'd like to say?
I don't. I guess most people probably don't follow me on Twitter, but a couple weeks ago, we hit 100 members for the Osamu fan club. So thanks, everybody. Yay! Woo! That's all I have to say.
He's the best.
Yeah, he is. He's the best.
You don't have any like calendars or anything you need to shout like people's attention to or anything like that? This is the chance for plugs.
Yes, that's a good call. If you're interested in joining a calendar project, I'm looking for 2 or 3 more artists. It's the Bro Calendar. And the topic is basically just characters who are like bros, like Wolfwood and Bash from Trigun, Spike and Jet from Cowboy Bebop, stuff like that.
Like Nick and me from this? Like
yeah,
Nick and me bros?
You art of Nick and Chris, and it could be in this calendar. So hit me up on.
Ooh, can I do Master Chief in his suit?
Yes, you can. Almost anything is. You do have to keep it PG-13, but you can imply. So yeah, that is almost acceptable.
So I just turned back to the Skype window, and Cortana greeted me and said, "Hi there. While you were chatting with me or others, I can offer suggestions and ideas." So
you seem stressed out, Jeff. Do you want me to help out with that?
So I'll need your permission to use IM conversations and quote unquote location.
I think there's one specific location I'm going to draw some attention to. You're like, all right, that's it, Cortana, go away.
But yeah, so if you want to join up, that would be super awesome. Just send me a message on Twitter. My name's on the screen, but it is at KITOU_ACE. And be my friend.
Please be your friend. She's too good. And if you ever want to know the plot of Final Fantasy 15 without ever playing the games, make sure to follow her. You'll pick it up pretty quickly. Jeff, what about you? I know you're a podcaster of a prodigious sort.
Oh, yeah. So you can check out my Digimon podcasts at Poddigis on Twitter and Tumblr and Facebook. And I am on Twitter as Jeffly Jeff. That's about all I have.
And make sure you download the Viz app.
Oh, yeah. That too, I guess.
That's your lifeblood.
But yeah, I mean, if you have comments or suggestions about the Viz or Shonen Jump apps for iOS or Android, you can always let me know. And if you have like things, even if you think they're common ideas, it helps me to. The more feedback we get, the more I can use that feedback to make my case more compelling that I should work on that stuff. So even if you think it's a common thing, it helps to send that. Yeah.
And don't forget, everybody, go to Shonen Jump or viz.com/Shonen Jump, scroll to the bottom, go to the character popularity poll, go all the way to the bottom, and then put Gang Orca. Gang Orca. You have to write him in.
G space ORCA.
It's very important you put the space in. Also, if you guys want to put a couple fun votes in for Honey Mustard, I support that as well. But Gang Orca is who we need to get the popularity poll on, guys. All right, that's going to do it, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for listening to Weekly Manga Recap. Special thanks to Annaliese and Jeff for coming on the show. It is much appreciated. Nobody wanted to listen to me talk about manga all by myself, so I'm very thankful we were able to get you guys in, and you were able to enrich the show with your brilliant opinions, beautiful smiles, and wonderful personalities.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. And that's going to do it. I have nothing weird or off topic to bring up as our closer to the show. So I simply want to say, fuck yourself, Nick. We don't need you to do this show. I don't need you anymore, Nick Freeman. I'm doing this myself now. Ugh.